I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to orders. This is the the July 25th board meeting of the West Basin Municipal Water District Board of Directors. First and foremost, let's determine if we have a quorum. If either the manager or the secretary could do a roll call, please.
Okay, I'll certainly do that. We'll start with Director Alvarez. Here. Director Gray.
Here.
Director Williams.
Here.
Director Deere. Director Houston.
I'm here.
It appears we have a quorum.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, so our next item will be the Pledge of Allegiance. We do have a honored guest who happens to be in the room, which is Council Member Olivia Valentine from the City of Hawthorne. If you would be so kind to lead us in the pledge.
Please stand, face the flag, place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I
pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Valentine. Okay, so next would be public comment, item 4, Mr. General Manager.
Okay, and I believe we may have one public comment from perhaps our council member in the room today.
I don't have any comments today.
Okay. Okay, so with that, we did have a comment from the Surfrider, and I believe that might be Mr. Craig Cadwallader. So if that's the case, please proceed with your public comment, and you have 3 minutes.
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Craig Cadwallader, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Surfrider Foundation South Bay chapter. And I wanted to very quickly mention that I attended the board retreat and workshop on July 9th, and I have to say that's my second most favorite West Basin meeting among the hundreds I've attended over the years. And it was a very robust discussion of the future of the recycling program with West Basin and some other issues. And unfortunately, that meeting was not videotaped, and the audio is not being made available to the public. The discussion in that meeting was so important. I think it's unfortunate that the public, I wish the public was there besides just me, but it's unfortunate the public can't go back and listen to the very comprehensive and intelligent discussion the board of directors had and the general manager. And I would encourage going forward that the board pass a resolution if necessary to make recordings available to the public, even if they are not a virtual meeting. And my understanding from the meeting is that the recording would not be made available because it was not a virtual meeting based on a previous resolution. And I have to say that the audio video capabilities in the boardroom have increased significantly. In fact, I think they're the best of all the meetings I attend, and I attend lots. So I would encourage the board to continue to make these documentations of either audio, preferably video, but at least audio available to the public going forward. And I did want to say that I think it was very intelligent, very robust, and very encouraging. So I was very pleased to be at that meeting and to hear the thoughts expressed, which were very important for the public to hear. So once again, please consider making recordings of these meetings available to the public, all the meetings available to the public going forward. Thank you for allowing me to comment.
Thank you, Craig. Anybody else? Any other member of the public?
Okay. Do we have anyone in the room who'd like to make a public comment? I don't see anyone here. If there's anyone who's on the platform who also would like to make a comment, please recognize yourself by raising your hand. And I don't see anyone on the platform indicating the desire to make a public comment, so that probably concludes our public comments. If it would be appropriate for me to maybe make a comment of my own in response to Mr. Cadwalader, if it pleases the Vice President.
And hold on one second. By the way, my Teams is not logged in, so at some point someone could log it in, so. Okay, Mr. John Manager, you wanted to make a comment.
A very quick comment, just in thank you to Mr. Cadwalader for attending our special board workshop. Generous remarks that he made, really appreciate it. And I just want to say that, regarding the recording of that Saturday meeting, we were going to make that available in response to a public records request. And unfortunately, perhaps operator error, the recording actually did not record our meetings. And so I have to take responsibility for not operating the system in a proper manner. It was my first time using the system, and I thought that I had done all the procedures correctly. But unfortunately, the recording, as I've been told, did not actually record audio. And so I appreciate Mr. Cadwalader's encouragement to make those available in the public for future reference. And so I'm sure the board will take that into account if and when we have future meetings that are not virtual.
Very good. Thank you for that clarification. Now, I believe there's minutes from that meeting, or will be minutes, that are obviously available.
Correct. Yes, those will be made available as part of our public record.
Okay. With that, items, let's see, hold on. Presentations. Are there any presentations?
We have no presentations at this time.
Good. And then items too late to be agendized. I do not know of any.
We do not have any items there.
Okay, next is our consent calendar. And 7, A through D.
Okay, and we'll start with the approval of our minutes. And so I'd like to hand it over to our manager of administration.
This is just consent, right? So,
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, so I will entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar with the recommendations unless someone has a poll. Any polls?
I'll
Director
move the
Alvarez.
consent calendar, but I want to note
Okay,
that I will be abstaining from the approval of the June 2nd and June 15th minutes because I was not present at those two meetings.
Mhm.
And I would like the record to record that I'm voting no on item 7D.
D. Okay, so I don't know, did you catch that, Julie?
I did.
You made the motion, but with the 2 abstentions and 1 no recorded. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Great. Okay, is there any further discussion? Director Gray? Okay,
No,
I think then we'll
can you
be,
just tell me the
go ahead.
motion again, please? I'm sorry. Can you
Oh,
tell me
go
the
ahead.
motion
What did you
again?
say?
What is the motion again, please?
The motion is to approve the consent calendar.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
great. Okay, so with that, we will go ahead and take our vote. So if Julie or Greg, you want to do roll call, please?
Absolutely. Roll call vote, starting with Director Alvarez,
Yes, with my noted exception.
Director Houston,
Yes.
Director Williams,
Yes.
Director Gray.
Yes,
Okay, and I know we did not have Director Deere, but I'll check to see if we have Director Deere now. Director Deere? Okay, appears Director Deere is still absent.
Great, thank you. All right, so moving on to item 8, our action calendar. Greg?
Yes, okay, and so we have our first item, which is the Water Harvest 2022 event production company procurement, and we have our manager of public information, Amy Rocha, here with Melissa Buendia online to provide the report and staff recommendations. Please, Amy.
Thank you, Greg. There we go. Turn on my balances out here. So good afternoon, members of the board. I am presenting on the Water Harvest Festival production procurement results and making a request to
approve an agreement. And so I'll just start with an overview, which is essentially the same as the manuals here.
What
Each-
page?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm on packet page 103. Okay, so each year we go out and put a public procurement through our system, through our e-procurement system, to bring on board an event production company. So this is the company that helps us secure all of the booth materials and the the stage and the audio visual and all of the elements that make for a good fun event for the family. So this year we have two main contenders that came through the system. And let me just pull some highlights from the procurement process. We issued the request for proposal on Thursday, June 2nd. And then we have in the packet on page 105, you'll be able to see the scope of work, for the items that we're asking for. And then we also issued it with a deadline of June 15th. And then we extended the deadline because we wanted to see what other additional applicants we may get and allowed for some extra time. And so we extended that deadline from June 15th to June 29th. And then at that time, we did receive proposals from two firms, Bravo Productions and Innovate Marketing Group. So the scoring that we have, which is also, you can see the score spreadsheet on packet page 107. We had panelists and we averaged the different elements. So the proposal, and let me just show you here. Oh, sorry. So you can see in green on packet page 107, the selected candidate is Bravo Productions because they received scores based on the criteria for the proposal, as well as we took into account the pricing proposal that would give the district the biggest value for what we're asking for in this scope. And so with those decisions and having gone out broadly and publicly, we decided to choose Bravo Productions, who actually did produce our event the prior year we had it in person. And so we did also, we're pleased with our experience working with them as well. And so if there's any questions about the process itself or the applicants of the firms, I can answer this at the time, or otherwise I can read the recommendation for what we're asking for the board to approve.
Could you read the recommendation?
The recommendation is that the board authorizes the general manager to enter into an agreement with Bravo Productions to help coordinate and implement the 2022 Water Harvest Festival for a contract amount of $78,144.90 with a 15% contingency for a total not to exceed amount of $89,866.64.
Great, thank you, Amy. Let's see, I'm going to open up the floor to any questions from my colleagues. So two directors here, go ahead. Director Williams.
Well, if there are no questions, I'd like to make a recommendation. I'd like to actually move that recommendation.
Director Williams moves it. There's a second. I'll go ahead and second it. So now, Director Alvarez, any comments, questions?
You know what? No question.
And Director Gray? Any questions, comments?
No
Okay,
question.
great.
Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, so with that, we have a motion and a second on the floor and no further discussion. So we'll go ahead and take a vote, please. Greg?
Okay, we'll start with Director Alvarez,
No.
Director Houston,
Yes.
Director Williams,
Yes.
Director Gray.
Yes,
I'll assume that Director Gear is not present with us.
So here we go. We have a
3-1.
Okay, so let's move on. Thank you, Amy, very much. All right, so next is water bottle filling station. Item D is in bold.
Okay, thank you, Amy. Thank you, Melissa. Okay, so that brings us to our, let me make sure I'm on the right page here. Water bottle filling station program update, and we have Tammy Hurley High, our water policy and resources analyst, here to give staff report and recommendation. Tammy, please.
Good afternoon, board directors.
Good afternoon.
So this item is being brought to you in order to provide an update on this program and also for your consideration of awarding 4 applications that were received during the last fiscal year, which do not adhere to the regular program guidelines. And as you are aware, the district water bottle filling station functions as an open application period on a first come, first served basis until all funds are exhausted or the fiscal year end, whichever comes first. So of the total number of applications received during the last fiscal year, there are 4 applications that do not currently adhere to the guidelines. And the program guidelines qualify public agencies to apply for 2 stations per fiscal year. And overall, the program budget is $35,000 and it's evenly distributed across 5 service divisions, $1,000 each for each director. However, the number of applications for Division 1 and Division 5 have exceeded their respective totals. And due to available funds to cover all the requests overall, it is recommended to consider evaluating 4 applications that were received in an effort to maximize the funding availability for fiscal year ending 2022 budget. So the table that is included in the memo describes each applicant and the reason to consider approval. And due to, again, like I said, the available funds, adequate funds that are available, staff is recommending that the board consider authorizing these 4 applications. I'd be happy to answer any questions before I read the recommendation or go through the presentation.
Why don't you read the recommendation first and we'll go from there.
So the recommendation is that the board consider awarding the following 4 water bottle filling station program applications in fiscal year 2021-22. Number 1 is Temple Occupy of Culver City. Number 2, Environmental Charter High School in Lawndale. Number 3, the Los Angeles Unified School District at Catskills Elementary. And 4 is the City of Gardena Johnson Park.
Great, thank you very much. May I open the floor to comments or questions from my colleagues? Anybody go first? I see Director Williams.
Yes, the LA USD Catskills Elementary. What city is that located in?
That is in
I think it's the city of Carson. Yes, okay. Thank you. Yes, no one wants to make a,
Well, I'm open to motions or people
I
want
have
to talk.
questions.
Why not? We'll go.
I make
Go
a
ahead,
motion.
Director.
Great.
All right, so Director Gray makes a
Make a
motion. Okay, Director Gray moves it. Is there a second?
second.
Director Williams seconds it. We still have time for discussion. So Director Alvarez.
With respect to the private school, which is not included in our guidelines, have we ever made a contribution, I guess, or awarded the installation of anything to a private entity before?
Thank you for that question. That is a good question. And yes, the district has made an accommodation in the historically, a couple of years ago. It was from a similar type of organization, not for profit, but a private school. And it was for St. Philomena Catholic School. And that was done a couple of years ago. And that was, I think, because of the same situation that we're in right now, there was available funding. Of course, when we receive applications, we certainly don't want to turn anybody away. We want to, try to do everything that we can to accommodate them in any way we can. So, yeah, so we have made accommodations like this in the past.
Which partially, I guess, answers my follow-up question. I was gonna say Temple Akiba sounds like it's some kind of a parochial school. But you said in the past, the district has basically made a accommodation to St. Olympia's. Not quite sure that, right, but I assume that was a parochial school also. So there's no guidelines to making public funds available to religious institutions.
It's only for public organizations right now, is how it's outlined.
Chair, I had a similar concern back when St. Philomena was awarded their water bottle filling station. And at that time, the general counsel opined that it was fine to do that. We had no issue.
If you'd like me to address that, I can, Director Alvarez.
Sure, go ahead. Love to see the reasoning.
Yeah, the reasoning is that and you've seen it in recent Supreme Court cases concerning the Establishment Clause, that these expenditures are for a non-secular purpose. The purpose of these expenditures is to promote water conservation and actually affect water conservation. And for that reason, we've opined in the past that this is not promoting the establishment of religion. It's actually promoting a secular, non-religious purpose. And the cases support that. And as you may have been following, the recent Supreme Court cases are greatly expanding that interpretation of establishment, the establishment provision of the Constitution.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Steve.
The other question then has to do with budgets, and this now goes over the budget. Are we making a special allocation to finance the additional expenditures?
No, we are not. It actually comes in under budget. We still have $6,000 available remaining in the budget. It would just be a matter of shifting the allocation per division. If there's leftover fund available in one division, we can carry that over to Division 1, for example, and Division 5 to cover those applications. But overall, the program did come in under budget, under $6,000.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, very good. Any other questions? I think I only had one question. The City of Gardena Johnson Park, because it's $2,000, right? So is that a outdoor irrigation station? Oh. All right. Any last questions, comments? I think it's very fair. We've done this in the past and we have plenty of extra funds at this moment. So I didn't from the last year's fiscal budget. So I think we'll go ahead and call for the vote.
Okay, Director Alvarez,
Yes.
Director Houston,
Yes.
Director Williams,
Yes.
Director Gray.
Yeah.
All right, unanimous support.
Thank you. Okay, next is item, I want to make sure I get the right number. So we're on 8, correct? 8.
C, yes.
Perfect. 8C is in cap.
Okay, and this is regarding our on-call material testing and specialty inspection services agreement. And we're have our engineer and project manager, Kevin Cullen, here to present on this item and to provide staff recommendations. So Kevin, please take her away.
Thank you, Greg. Good afternoon, members of the board and others with us present today. I'll be starting on agenda packet page 123. As mentioned, I'm here to present a recommendation for an agreement amendment for our on-call materials testing and specialty inspection services agreement with Smith Emery Company. This is an agreement that is utilized only by our PLA projects, our project labor agreement projects, that is. West Basin first entered into our project labor agreement with the Los Angeles and Orange Counties Building and Construction Trades Council and the signatory craft councils and unions in July 2014. This PLA applies to several West Basin capital improvement projects, including the completed Gardena Lateral Project, the completed Hyperion Pump Station Improvements Project, Also, the completed Edward C. Little Water Recycling Visitor Center renovation improvements project, as well as two others that are no longer planned. That's the LEDP Harbor Area Expansion Project and the full-scale Ocean Water Desal facility, also no longer planned. The final project on the list for PLA is the JMM CRWP Phase 2 expansion project, which is the subject of the recommendation today. So the terms and conditions of the PLA establish employment conditions for all craft workers on the subject projects, including our field inspectors. Our field inspectors observe and document the work performed by the construction contractor to ensure that it's performed in accordance with the contract documents. 95% of this work is soil compaction testing, rebar inspection, concrete placement, and concrete sampling. So to comply with the provisions of the PLA, including the local resident at-risk worker participation goals, West Basin contracted directly with a specialty inspection and materials testing firm, Smith Emery. These materials testing and specialty inspection services are provided on an as-needed basis upon request by the construction management firm administering the construction contracts on the PLA covered projects. For this instance, that would be Buchier. Summary of Smith Emery's contract agreement spending to date can be found in Table A on page 124 of the packet. In the table, you can see the Smith Emery cost to date relative to the total construction cost of the project. So based on actual expenditures thus far on the JMM CRWRP Phase 2 expansion project and forecasting for the remaining work activities, staff anticipates the material testing and inspection costs will total approximately $160,000 for the whole project. This estimate is an increase from a past budgetary estimate of $100,000 provided to the board in May 2021. The main reason for this increase is the unforeseen quantity of unsuitable soils encountered at the construction site. The construction documents require a soil compaction level of 90%, and this has required a significant amount of increased inspections and compaction testing. The construction specifications are met. To ensure the construction specifications are met and high quality work is maintained, near full-time geotechnical inspection has been required in recent months during the installation of yard piping and underground electrical ducting. With $15,716 currently remaining in the budget, staff recommends amending the agreement with Smith Emery in the amount of an additional $60,000. All costs will be billed on an as-needed basis as required by the construction contract document. That I will read the recommendation. The recommendation is that the board authorize the general manager to amend agreement W2664 with Smith Emery Company for on-call materials testing and specialty inspection services in the amount of $60,000 for a new total not to exceed contract amount of $354,911. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. So any questions from my colleague? Or a motion?
I'd like to move.
Director Alvarez moved it.
Second.
Williams, any other discussion? I don't have any questions. Director Gray, any questions?
No, thank you.
All right, I don't see anybody else, so I think we'll go ahead and call for a vote. So,
Okay, Director Alvarez,
Yes.
Director Houston,
yes.
Director Williams,
Yes.
Director Gray.
Yes,
Okay, the motion carries 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next item, deals with chemicals. That's probably going to be a little more involved per se.
Yes.
Item D. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think we've had a conversation about this situation a couple months ago, and here we are again. And we're looking at a request and a proposal for unit price increases on our chemical contract. And so we have our senior operations engineer, Susanna Lee, here to provide a presentation and the recommendation as well. So Susanna, please. And we also have are Uzi McDaniels, who is here with her, serving as Executive Manager of Engineering and Operations in absence of Barkev, Ms. Erlian. So Susanna, please.
Thank you, Greg, and good afternoon, members of the board and public. Please turn to page 126 of your packet to find a copy of the memo. As the board has been made aware through staff regular updates this past year and a half, the chemical raw material constraints and supply chain issues unfortunately has continued to place a significant burden on our chemical vendors and consequently result in price increases in the chemical industry. And as the memo states, staff is here to request increase from 2 suppliers, JCI Jones and Miles Chemical, for 4 chemical contract adjustment. So staff is here to present the details of the request and impacts to the price increases. As the memo states, the 4 chemicals in discussions include ferric chloride, sodium bisulfite, sodium hydroxide, and sodium hypochlorite. And their applications and needs for each of these chemicals as detailed on page 1 and 2 of the memo. And in summary, chemicals play an intricate role in ensuring the recycling water productions at West Basin, and which to produce to meet our customers' need and the permit requirements. And it will put a halt to the recycling water operations should these chemicals are not available. And so for your reference, West Basin Board approved the renewal of contracts with all the chemical vendors with adjusted unit price until December 15th, 2022. At the time of the renewal request back in April this year, all vendors attempted to anticipate the chemical contract and what the unit prices would be for the 6-month durations. The continual raw material and supply chain constraints have forced the vendors to adjust the unit price as they just receive raw material adjustment with about 30 days notice. Both JCI Jones and Miles Chemical have requested the cost increase. Copies of the price request letters can be found in attachment A. And table 1 on page 127 of the memo summarizes the details of the increase for each chemical. The percent increase ranges from between 3.7% to 18.5%. And as with prior requests, these increases are a result of the shifting worldwide supply and the demand balance of the raw material, the rising transport costs, inflation costs, and limited number of suppliers in the United States. In addition, the chlor-alkali market will further be affected significantly should EPA's proposed rule be passed as the banning the use of asbestos diaphragms in chlor-alkali facility within 2 years of final ruling. That will potentially affect 1/3 of the domestic chlorine production. So West Basin staff is working together with other agencies, and AWWA and other partners have filed comments to the EPA to express the grave concerns of this proposed rule. Based on the projected sales and the proposed new unit rates for the chemicals, the increase in the unit price will result in estimated increase approximately $449,000 for the remaining 5 months contract period. Due to the unstable nature of this chlor-alkali and the chemical market, there may be additional increases for the remainder of the agreement term. Given the staff assessment of the current chemical market, the supply chain issues, and the criticality of the chemicals to the West Basin recycling water operations, staff is recommending West Basin adjust these unit prices to meet the current market conditions. West Basin staff continues to work with other agencies, as I mentioned earlier, to see how to address this ever increasing price conditions. With that, I will read the recommendation that the board authorizes the general manager to A, amend agreement W2966 with JCI Jones Chemical for supply and delivery of sodium bisulfite to reflect an increase in unit price to 0.5081 per dry pound for all sodium bisulfite deliveries beginning August 1st, 2022. And B, amend agreement W2967 with JCI Jones Chemicals for supply and delivery of sodium hydroxide to reflect an increase in unit price to $0.5815 per dry pound for all sodium hydroxide delivery beginning August 1st, 2022. And C, amend agreement W2968 with JCI Jones Chemical for supply and delivery of sodium hypochlorite to reflect the increase in unit price of $1.6119 per gallon for all sodium hypochlorite deliveries beginning August 1st, 2022. And amend agreement W2970 with Miles Chemical for the supply and delivery of ferric chloride to reflect an increase in unit price of 55 cents per pound for the mini bulk ferric chloride deliveries beginning from August 1st, 2022. And E, amend agreement W2970 with Miles Chemical for the supply and delivery of sodium hypochlorite to reflect an increase in unit price to $2.63 per gallon for all mini bulk sodium hypochlorite deliveries beginning from August 1st, 2022. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Good, thank you, Susanna. So any questions or comments? I see Director Williams' hand and then Director Alvarez. Director Williams.
Yes, I'd just like to ask the general manager if he agrees that these are fair prices.
Well, I think it's what the market is bearing, given the conditions that staff has indicated. And we have very little options to obtain these materials elsewhere. Staff has informed me that in checking with other suppliers, they are not taking on new customers. And so the ability to shop elsewhere is very constrained. And so with that, I think it's it's the option that we have to go with at this time. And hopefully other opportunities that, work themselves, make themselves available to us. But at this time, this is our only option.
With that, I move staff's recommendation.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second? I'll go ahead and second it.
I will, Director Gray.
All right, I'll let Director Gray is the second. So moving forward with discussion, I see Director Alvarez wants to say something. Go ahead.
Okay, in the staff report, you're saying you're gonna go out for proposals at the end of the year.
Aye.
Is there any reason why we couldn't accelerate that?
We've looked into, we actually have an agreement with a lot of these folks till the end of the year, but you're right, Director. In a sense, when they need to change the price, that gives us the power to change that. We would like to accelerate it. We're looking into it, but as we said, we're also trying to go out to bid when we know there's folks out there who want to bid. We're looking at options. Do we maybe just bid out a few chemicals that we know have a few that have a stable market? And so we're analyzing that right now. We're talking to other agencies. How is everyone doing this? Is there a better way? Our procurement department is meeting with their association and trying to get everyone together. So we could, but I guess our concern is we'll get maybe one other vendor, which is fair enough. And then this same pattern is going to continue. And that's really we're not quite experts in the field, although by default we're becoming that. So we really are out there looking for the best options. It's very time consuming. And I think a lot of the water agencies and ops departments, they're all dealing with the same thing. A lot of people have left staffing up in addition to trying to handle these supply chain issues. As Susanna mentioned, the EPA is involved as well. They're involved in prioritizing. Even Homeland Security is involved because of the security, obviously, of chlorine products. So it just seems to be kind of a messy issue. We could accelerate it, absolutely. We're just trying to find that sweet spot where we do it in a way that also gets us a competitive market versus sort of getting locked in or getting proposed some giant number and then having to revise that again and again.
Okay, so, have you thought about possibly going out and seeking, proposals with, some caveats that give the district more, options in the event that they come back with increases or potential increases? Because the market has been changing since the beginning of the year.
If I understand you correctly, that we have more leverage with the vendor, or do you mean more like we have been looking at how other agencies purchase things?
More leverage with a vendor.
Yeah, that's what we're looking into and trying to figure out, trying to find other agencies or even some of the private water companies. Does anyone have a really good system out there that gives them that? Or even, larger, trying to work with Veolia or something. They're a multinational. Do they have some capabilities? So we have been looking into it. And if I'm quite honest, we're not necessarily purchasing experts. So we're having to kind of go through a learning curve and seek that advice as well as we look through this.
Yeah, from talking to other agencies, they're facing similar issues. So they try to bid out, and unfortunately, new company are not bidding because they're just constraining the amount of material they can support new customers. So at this point, especially the chlor-alkali market is so constrained right now because of the fewer manufacturer as well as the proposed rule. They are just really scared right now and not wanting to give, I guess, commit to more than they can. So, and you can notice like the past increase requests are from for the same type of chemicals, and this totally because of the chlor-alkali market is very constrained.
But we're open to, if anyone, anyone has any other thoughts or some good examples, we're out there seeking, asking at conferences and trying to, really do that to try to make sure these vendors know this shouldn't be considered automatic, or that we are looking into this.
Would the board like staff to come back with recommendations, perhaps in the E&O committee, as to an accelerated procurement process and what that might look like?
Possibly, we can talk about it.
Is there a motion on the floor to,
What's that?
No, there is a motion to approve.
There's just a motion to approve this right now.
okay,
We're just doing discussion. Other thoughts?
Yeah, I have
Okay.
another question. Regarding the budget, so the 6.14 million was budgeted for these chemicals. That was the total that was budgeted for the chemicals.
That was the
That
total
was the total budgeted for the chemical. So we're gonna go over that budget by $449,000.
for the next 5 months. Yeah.
At some point, you will come back to the board how that's going to be plugged into the budget.
Correct. Based on this actual sales and whatnot, we'll come back to the report to.
Because the chemical budget was basically didn't have any freeboard in it. So the question is, why are we waiting to a future point, not now?
Why we,
Why are we waiting till later to come out and say, this is an overage in the budget and this is how we're gonna allocate funding, whether it's from the reserve or budget reallocation or budget amendments? Why are we doing that at a future date as opposed to making that recommendation today?
I think, I know in operations, since I've been down there as a lot of them, sometimes you have the ability, reflecting, maybe a project didn't go forward or was delayed, or you had a savings somewhere else, or you could find a savings. So I guess, Director, month by month, it might be a little challenging, or we could make that suggestion, but we do work when we do our budget to actuals. And I know the finance department comes forward with quarterly updates, that's typically when we try to make adjustments. And it's usually done every 6 months. So there still may be an ability, instead of having to say, come with a budget amendment, instead, we might find some savings somewhere else. We're reviewing these every month, our budget to actuals, and a lot of things flux. So I think that's why we don't do that right away on an immediate monthly basis, to allow time for possible savings or finding savings somewhere else, or delaying something if we can, or else making that assessment that we in fact did not have any other savings, therefore we'll come back for an amendment.
I guess I feel more comfortable addressing it at the time that we're overspending the budget. But thank you for your response.
Anything else?
No.
Okay, so Director Gray, do you have any questions?
Oh, no, directly, right there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I'll follow up with a few things. I think actually on that one, I think Director Alvarez is right. I think if we're gonna come saying, look, it's gonna go over budget, let's just amend the budget as it comes through. I think that seems fair. Doesn't that seem right, Mr. General Manager?
We certainly can do that. Perhaps we can either present a budget recommendation, adjustment recommendation, either on F&A committee, Finance and Administration Committee, or potentially the Engineering and Operations Committee.
Yeah, or when it comes right before us. I think we've done it before. I think that's just the way we should do it. If we're gonna go over, let's just do it. Let's just get it dealt with and move along. I think that's the best. So
I guess I'm thinking more of a catch up on this particular adjustment, but we certainly can have that as an integral part of any additional budget overages that we present.
because we have been, it's been brought before us in the past when staff has asked us to go over budget on something and threw one on right then. So we should be consistent and do the same with this. So
Right.
that's
And-
my,
And my first approach would be to identify offsets that can, take care of these kind of overages if that's possible.
yeah. At the end of the day, though, this is chemicals, and so it is what it is. So I think it's probably pretty clear, just if we're gonna go over, just put it on there, we'll adjust the budget and we'll move along. I think that's my layperson's perspective. I assume the board probably would think the same way. Worst case, it does go through E&O or F&A, but I don't think, if you're gonna bring chemical issues to us, you might as well just get it dealt with. This is gonna keep happening. I don't know, Margaret, I see Margaret, are you, why don't you come up to the front real quick if you don't mind? An option.
I mean, this is an action item today, if the board would like to, I think they can provide staff direction to amend the budget for the amount that's stated within the memo. So I believe it was 445,000, and we can certainly do that. And to address Director Alvarez's questions, yes, it would come out of our reserves in order to do that. That's why we have our designated funds that reflect different components. This one being operating contingency would be just that consideration. So if you want to address it, I think we could address it today. Maybe Steve can opine that it is appropriate to add to the action.
Yes, Steve, did you hear that? Legal counsel? So what you're saying without legal is that we could, what could we do? Could we
You could,
amend the
Make a motion.
Go ahead.
motion?
So there's a motion on the table.
Mhm.
We can make an amendment to the motion to
Make the amendment to.
basically fund the Delta overage from the reserves. And do that now. So I'll make that amendment. I don't know if the motion maker wants to accept it.
I do.
So now we have both on the same motion.
So to be clear, we're going to amend, I believe the amount is 445,000.
549.
449,000 to the recycled water operations chemical line item budget.
From the reserve.
And it's being funded from the district's reserves, yes.
Very good. So now we have an adjusted motion on the floor in a second, or they both agree, so we're good. Okay. Now, the next thing I wanted to ask really fast, because look, at the end of the day, I get it. We're just kind of stuck. I do think that staff should look at options of going out earlier to look at bidding options. Why not? Why wait till the end of the fiscal calendar year or what have you. I think that you all should potentially come back and give us some thoughts and ideas to move this faster. It seems like a good thing to do. So I would like that staff to do that. One of the things, on this, because I'm not 100% an expert, obviously, but now are these predominantly chemicals used in a recycled water facility, or is this also just in wastewater treatment facilities in general?
The issues that are occurring with the chemical industry, chloralkali, no, it's nationwide. They're being consumed in plastics. So the EPA stepped in and said, we are going to give priority to drinking water and wastewater as a public health concern and a global, a national security issue. Actually, recycled water, as usual, is a little funky in that. So we were able, our state regulators defended that we should qualify for that, but it's not really defined. So in a sense, we could be put behind the line with everything else. So there's that supply issue, but that high demand and the limited number of facilities that are out there now producing this is why we see that market fluctuation. So that's, I think, somewhat of an answer. It is nationwide for all industries, but it impacts us. But luckily, the EPA defends that these chemicals are needed as a public health concern.
And then like AWWA, or Aqua, or any of the other associations addressing this in some sort of way toward the federal government or state governments at all?
They are, and maybe I shouldn't say this, but I wish it seemed to be more at AWWA than at a state level. I wish these organizations were a little more aggressive, because I see a lot of us out there who are, trying to keep your plant running daily, trying to chase down these, and it's a big issue. And so they are working on it, but it would be great to encourage them more, or I think that would really help a lot of us in general.
My last thing on this would be,
Sure.
because we know what, for example, Metropolitan's doing at this potential massive plant down the street in Carson. We know where Hyperion might go, and there's all these others. It's going to be a lot more competition. So this is a huge issue for all of us right now. So here's my thinking, but it goes into a committee. So I think I see AJ back there, but I don't think I'm even the member or the chair, but I think maybe this is something that could go to the Ledge and Policy Committee to bring to us for some information and discussion, because I do think we need to look at sending some letters or correspondence, not only to our electeds, but even how can we better work with Aqua or AWA or whomever to say this is a big challenge for us in the water industry, and not just sit here and expect everyone else is going to belong. So can we put that on the agenda for the Policy and Ledge to talk about? Because again, if we don't bring it to the attention of our lawmakers and others, that may not be our number one priority among many things. So I'd like to at least have a discussion how we can make sure that we're playing our role.
We'll do.
Okay, so at the end of the day, we don't have much of a choice. We've got a motion on the table in a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, we'll go ahead and call the roll.
Director Alvarez,
Yes.
Director Houston,
Yes.
Director Williams,
Yes.
Director Gray.
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries as amended, 4-0. And in answer to your earlier comment, Director Houston, we'll also come back with thoughts and ideas as to accelerating the bid for the chemicals contract. I would recommend bringing that forward in the E&O committee.
Good. Yeah, I don't want to do that. Okay, next is item 8E as in Edward.
Okay. And so item 8E as in Edward is our resolution to reauthorize the Brown Act provisions for virtual meetings. And so if I may hand that over to our district council to provide the recommendation here. Do we have our district council online?
He's trying to log back on at this moment, but
Okay.
he's not on right now, so yeah.
Okay, so if in lieu of our district council, I'd like to have our board, our board secretary provide this recommendation for board consideration.
Thank you, Greg. So good afternoon, Vice President and Chair Houston, members of the board. This item is coming to you again this month. This is resolution number 07-22-1169, reauthorizing the Brown Act provision for virtual meetings. In 2004 of 2020, we had the pandemic, and Governor Newsom signed a declaration of the state of emergency. And with that, he also placed the executive order in 2021. And with that being said, at the regular board meeting of September 27th, 2021, our board adopted the resolution allowing for continued virtual meetings for participation from the public, staff, and directors. And this resolution needs to be reaffirmed every 30 days. Thus, it is being brought before you today. So with that, I'll read the recommendation that the board adopt resolution number 7-22-1169, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the West Basin Municipal Water District proclaiming a local emergency persist, re-ratifying the proclamation of the state of emergency by Governor Newsom, and reauthorizing remote teleconferencing meetings of the board for the next meeting.
Great, thank you, Julie. Any questions, comments? Director Alvarez.
Okay, this is back to the whole COVID issue. And I think that COVID pretty much is become an endemic situation where we're living with it pretty much like we live with the flu and a few other diseases that are out there. It's going to come and go, but life cannot stop. We've discussed this in the past. I think it's time to just return to a more normal way of proceeding. So I am going to make a motion that we go to a hybrid meeting where the board is going to be in attendance, but the public can participate virtually.
What was that?
I thought that's how we already do it.
No, right now, what this says is that it's a virtual meeting. The board does not have to be present. Okay, so this is, we talked about this in the past.
Oh, I know.
And so this is to go back, the public can participate, but that the board would be present. We go back to the standard Brown Act type of
Well,
operation.
if we don't pass this motion, we go back to the way it was anyway.
If the motion fails, we go back to the way it was.
Right.
But then there's not necessarily hybrid where the public would participate virtually.
Yeah, although my understanding is that is what we have been doing. I mean, that we would still do hybrid even if this Brown Act provision did not prevail.
Would we?
We'd go back to the original way. And yes, we have posted a link for them to participate virtually.
We haven't taken that away at all.
We have not.
Because the other thing was we video record all of our meetings, and this is the system that does that. But we've also allowed the public to call in and phone in.
That is correct.
You know, in the past, when we've asked this question, that was always the answer given to us, that even if this resolution didn't pass, we still allow public to participate in a virtual form. That's my understanding.
Yes. We've been posting the agendas both as a hybrid.
So I know that he made a motion. Is there a second on the motion or not?
I did give additional information to the general manager from our HR department, and I'm not sure if he wants to share it or if Elise is on the line today.
I can share it if it pleases the vice president. Okay, so this is just kind of part of my general manager remarks, but it seems that it might be relevant for consideration right now. LA County, from our HR manager, Michelle Green, LA County Department of Public Health plans to instate an indoor mask mandate if COVID tracking metrics continue to increase. The mask mandate is expected to take effect July 29, 2022, absent a sudden turnaround in COVID metrics. It would apply to indoor shops, offices, events, schools, and more, and the order would rescind once case levels begin to drop again. As such, if the county reinstates the mask mandate, West Basin plans to follow accordingly in compliance with its health and safety policies, and we keep our contract operator abreast of any changes status of our COVID safety protocol.
Very good. I don't think that tells us anything different than what we were already talking about, quite frankly. Because that's down the road if that happens. That's something the supervisors with that situation. So back to the matter at hand. Director Gray.
Yeah, are you taking comments on it? Or are you trying to,
I'm trying to get there. So I'm opening it back up. So Director Alvarez made the motion. He didn't get a second. So we're back to the original recommendation from staff. So go ahead, Director Gray.
Yes, if the original if the original recommendation from staff is to continue as hybrid, which would include the public and obviously not the public, but the board, and obviously the public can participate by virtual, then I move that motion. I certainly support those comments, those facts that the general manager said. I know you said it's like looking forward, but there are many people who are still coming down with COVID, even though they're vaccinated and boosted. And so I am concerned about that. And I think as long as we can continue to do the business of the district, whether it's virtually in person, I think that's the goal. So I support the motion if that's what the motion says.
Okay, so are you making the motion?
Yes, if that's what the motion says, is for us to continue as hybrid for the board and for the public to continue to be able to participate virtually.
Okay, so she's recommending the motion from staff. That's what I heard.
Staff's recommendation?
Yeah, this one that we vote on every month.
Yeah, that I'm supporting staff's recommendation.
Have a motion in a second. Okay, so any other discussion? Okay, so I think you all know where this is going to go because we've done this before. I do not support this moving forward. I have been stable on that for months as Director Alvarez. Going back to the old way, it just means a certain way of posting where directors need to be physically, but otherwise you can still meet off site. So I don't think there's any other discussion. There's only 4 people who are present, so we know how the vote will probably happen. So any other comments or questions? Go ahead.
Director Gray, where?
Shouldn't be it.
Oh,
Yes.
it's just the 2 of us. Yeah. All right.
So
we know what's happening.
So why don't we just go ahead and get it over with? Go ahead, and Greg, go ahead and call the roll.
Okay, Director Alvarez.
No.
Director Houston.
No.
Director Williams.
Yes.
Director Gray.
Yes.
Okay, so the motion does not carry.
Now we move back to the old way of doing things. We still have the hybrid component for the public.
Mr. Chair, this is Keith Lemieux. Can I speak?
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
I apologize on behalf of Steve. I guess a thunderstorm took out his internet connection. And he's gotten me to jump into the meeting on an emergency basis. Sorry about that. I'm having trouble with my camera on this machine. So I don't have.
We can hear you.
Okay. I just wanted you to know that I'm here.
Oh, good. Okay. Thank you.
Oh, look, the camera's working now.
Okay. Very good. Okay. Go ahead, Director Gray.
Yeah. What is the old way? I'm a little confused about what is the old way. If there was a motion in place or a policy in place that said we will continue as hybrid for the board and the public or whatever. But I did hear you say we'd go back to what? I mean, I'm trying to understand, what are we going back to when you say the old way? Maybe Steve or the explain that, or whomever on the line, legal or whatever.
Sure. I'll let legal counsel answer that question. Keith.
Sure.
Noise.
Sorry, that's probably coming from my computer. Let me,
Oh,
I'm sort of bootstrapped myself into the meeting and I'll have to figure this out. The question is about the AB 361 hybrid meeting form. Is that what the question was?
yes,
Correct.
because, yeah, right.
And the question is, what is the difference between using AB 361 and not using AB 361? Is that the question?
No, the question is,
I think
the question has to do with the action today. What does that mean? What is that? How does the board continue to function based on the action today?
And the action today is to approve and renew the AB 361 findings?
Right, and that did not pass.
Keith.
Yeah, they did not pass.
However, it failed.
Oh, it failed. Okay, so the consequence
Right.
is, what is the consequence of it failing?
Right,
Yes.
yes, that's my question. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can't hear you fine. And sorry, so you guys, currently you guys have a quorum of the board present, I can see in the room. So under the normal Brown Act rules, you're allowed to continue your meeting because, well, you've designated it as as using teleconferencing, and you actually have a quorum of your board physically present. So it's not disruptive for this meeting. I guess the issue would be under the original Brown Act rules, the remote directors have to have a copy of the agenda posted at their location, and that the location has to be accessible to the public. So assuming for the sake of argument that those things are true, then failure to adopt AB 361 won't end this meeting right now. If those things are not true, then the remote directors couldn't participate in the meeting under the original rules. And I again, coming into this conversation very late, so I apologize if I'm missing some nuance here, but
Well,
that's.
let me finish my question. I'm asking about future meetings. What does that mean? Based on this action, what are future meetings in terms of the board?
It would mean that, yeah, you could still have members of the public participate electronically. It would mean that that you would have to always have a quorum of the board physically present in the boardroom. And in the event that directors were not physically present in the boardroom, then they would have to follow the old Brown Act rules, which includes posting the agenda at the location they're at and making that location available to the public. That would be the primary.
Okay. All right, that answered my question. All right, thank you.
Certainly.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move on to the information calendar, item 9. And are we going to go through all of this, or is it based on what the board would like to do, Greg?
It's based on what the board would like to do, but we do have a particular item of interest that we would like to present to the board, which is item 8 under the information calendar. But it certainly is, up to the board as to whether to hear all of these items or just the one or none.
Well, number one, the timing got canceled this month, so I do think it's appropriate to listen to some of these reports. And so that's, my perspective. I don't know what my colleagues think, but I think we should hear all 4 reports. I mean, in a
I agree.
expeditious manner, but yes, okay. So I think you've already got 2 of us, so I think that's what we'll do.
Okay, fantastic. So let's go forward with our first item, which is our communications update. And we have our manager of communications, Amy Rocha, please.
Again, directors. So I am going to go through, starting on page 140, communications update. This is our fairly standard presentation, so I'm not going to go through each item, but I did want to highlight a couple of areas where I'm hoping to get to let the board know and get some input about a potential drought campaign. So skipping ahead to packet page 147.
What's 142? It's just the whole
142.
Presentation.
Oh, yeah, so this is our typical run of the presentation. If you want me to go through it in its entirety, I can, but I was just trying to, for brevity.
I'd like to hear the whole thing.
Okay, then I'll go ahead. So starting at packet page 143, announcements. This just lists a couple of announcements that we've put on our web news page. So one announcing the district holiday and celebration of Juneteenth as a formal district holiday. And then secondly is a joint press release and announcement about the Culver City Stormwater Capture Project that we co-hosted to celebrate the project being completed and a regional model for stormwater capture that helps satisfy stormwater permitting issues that, you know, for the cities to satisfy. And then moving on to page 144. We have some media coverage here from the period of May and June. I do want to just highlight a couple things. So you'll see a lot of it's about the drought. This was around the time when people were moving to 2-day-a-week watering. So two things that are notable here is one that Basin is being inserted into the conversation. We're a wholesaler. We work with, you know, our cities and retailers, and we're amplifying what, you know, they're doing or what Met's doing and how it relates to our city as a whole. In addition, on June 1st, there was an article in the LA Times that mentioned us as well in terms of drought. And since then, we've also had interviews and just background information provided to these reporters. So it's good to establish us both, you know, in terms of water conservation as well as recycled water and just being a resource for the media when they want to know what's happening, especially since we cover, you know, some high profile cities and areas affected by the drought. So moving along to packet page 147, this is the drought campaign idea. I basically want to share with you and get input on. There's a few things I'm hoping to achieve from this meeting. And mainly it's to share an idea with you and then get your feedback on it. But leading into the summer, the late summer months, been working on different campaigns about supercalifragilistic and our drought campaign. And so the next iteration of this would be to do something that has visual impact in our communities that could be newsworthy and shareable to help get out the awareness and the message about water conservation. So you'll see on page 148 is a concept of a public art mural in our communities to drive awareness and build a sense of community surrounding our drought situation. So what staff is working with the local advertising agency that helped us come up with supercalifragilistic. They helped us conceive this idea as a way to amplify that message by creating 5 murals in 5 different locations, so one in each division, with a tailored water conservation message to be able to have in a highly visual area. And in addition, having some kind of augmented reality where people can use their phones to capture additional information about the drought. So it's, you know, an opportunity for a selfie with public art. It's an opportunity to walk by and be, you know, reminded about our drought conditions, as well as an opportunity to get more information online. And so today I wanted to, well, I also want to note, this is part of, we do have an active contract with Lola, the advertising agency in El Segundo. And we also have budget for this fiscal year. But because it's in the public, it's in your divisions, it's in our communities, want to get 3 things from the board today. One is just consensus or support for this kind of initiative. And this is something that we do want to pursue. Secondly, I would, you know, if so, what your role would be, which would be reviewing any of the artistic schematics and design concepts, as well as the message that would accompany it. And then 3, ask for your opinion on potential locations that could be no cost, although we are prepared to pay for some space if needed. So with that, I would like to open it up at the moment just to get a general idea of whether this is an initiative we would want to pursue in our communities, or if you want nothing at the moment, or go back to the drawing board. So if I could get some thoughts, I'd appreciate it.
Great. Thank you, Amy. So when I open up to the floor, my colleague, any thoughts or comments on this?
Well, I've always said that with this messaging, it has to be consistent. I mean, we have to be in their faces all the time. you got to be doing guerrilla marketing because that's what works. Because I've noticed that most of the people who are out there doing the grass removal are not removing it because they heard from West Basin. They are removing it because of some other. They got the information somewhere else. It wasn't from West Basin. And so our message is not getting out there. So because there's a lot of information out there about grass removal, and it's usually metropolitan or one of the larger water suppliers. It's not West Basin. Maybe that's just in my division, but the message is not coming from West Basin. So I don't know how what are we doing to get our message out there. I know that some of us who do the community outreach and go to events and we hand out information, but that's every now and then. So they don't hear the message on a consistent basis. Give you an example. One of the presidents we had recently, his marketing ploy is that you say the same thing over and over again, and then your audience begins to believe it. No matter what else is being said out there, they believe it. So some way we're going to get our message out there on a consistent basis, regularly saying every week, that water conservation is an attitude, it's a state of mind. Motivation gets you started. Habit is what keeps you going. Constantly, just hanging them with that some kind of way. I don't know. I'm not in marketing, but with some kind of way, we got to be in that mode of guerrilla marketing. How do you do it? I don't know. That's all.
Other questions, comments? No? You know what? I think on the one hand, I sort of applaud the idea, but I also don't really think that this is going to give us the bang for buck. Putting murals in whatever strategic locations that we can find, and even this picture doesn't have our own logo on it, so that doesn't work. But I don't know how much budget you have left with this agency, but there's probably a better way to use the funds. How much do we have left with this contract?
Contract is $36,000.
Okay. So just from my perspective, I think we could find ways to better utilize that than any murals. As much as that's a nice idea. I wouldn't mind if you all found some people in the community who want to partner up and do something, and maybe we can somehow assist or whatever, but I don't want to pay for murals that are not going to get noticed in big parts of our community. It's just not going to happen. So back to, and I think Director Williams made a great point, the guerrilla marketing, the very strategic outreach, that's where the best return on investment is. So I think that that's what we have got to do. So I don't want to completely knock the idea. It's kind of cool, but it's just not going to give us the investment we need right now. So.
May I ask, because I know I also pitched the roadshow with the truck delivering actual tangible items, and that was eliminated from the budget for this fiscal year. Are there examples that you can help direct me in terms of what you are looking for in terms of whatever guerrilla marketing means to you, or what in your mind constitutes worthwhile outreach tactics? Because that would help me come back with some ideas that perhaps would get the West Basin name out there. Right now, Save Our Water is slated to get, I believe it's $50 million for water conservation. So you'll see them stepping up their efforts out of GWR. Metropolitan obviously has a large budget that covers our service area. So people are still getting the message about the need for water conservation. To your point, is it branded West Basin? Sometimes, yes. Sometimes we co-brand. So I guess, in the case, whether it's a $36,000 budget or a budget that I come back to the board with to fully support a proper drought campaign, creative endeavor, is there examples that you could give me perhaps?
I don't know anything right now personally. We're kind of put on the spot, and unfortunately, the better for committee meeting to talk about it. I mean, that's my opinion. So maybe, unfortunately, we'll have to put this to committee meeting. That's just my thought. You're the chair, I think, Director Williams.
For a short while. But
And this was slated for committee discussion, so I don't mean to bring it up in.
I'd like to add that this last homeowner I ran into that's doing grass removal, is doing it on the information they received from Cal Water. But in the information that they received from Cal Water, there was no mention of West Basin.
Where the money was coming from?
Yeah. I don't know. But, it's marketing, it's selling, and that's a big ticket item, no matter what. And because this time is involved in getting people to understand that what water conservation is. So, no, we need to do something. So all of you experts in marketing and advertising,
well,
to come up with something.
Well, do you have anything?
Hello.
Okay, and then Director Alvarez, and then Director Gray.
I would just,
Okay, go ahead.
I don't have any issues with putting up a mural. I don't know where you're gonna put it up. But the other thing is I would say is take the $35,000, if that's what we're gonna spend. And just leverage it by either piggybacking on others that are promoting water conservation. Or excuse me. Or if we're gonna do turf.
You want to take it?
Or if we're gonna do turf replacement, which I'd rather focus on, I would start looking at some of the weekly publications in our communities and increasing our advertising here. Sorry about that.
Okay, Director. Yes. Director Gray, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm not quite sure how to assess our program or outreach program or messaging regarding water conservation, except, maybe I should ask the question, how do you assess it? I've heard some folks say, well, we're maybe not getting a message out in guerrilla advertising and whatever, but what are the parameters by which that department assesses whether or not the money that we spend, whether it's messaging through a billboard or messaging through sending out information or just looking at our water saving programs like turf removal or whatever, those things? How do you assess that? To me, that's what's important, because I know Metropolitan has a way of assessing the dollars that they put into water conservation, that it says we're saving so much water. So it's really a question. How are you assessing whether or not what you're doing is getting the message across? What's your goal in terms of what you're doing?
Yes, so that's a great question. I think in terms of overall common goal for all the agencies is to see water use decrease. Now that's not a direct correlation, right? You can't attribute our message to having down the average in the area, but for West Basin's direct correlation to seeing how our advertising and marketing is working, I think it's through our water use efficiency programs, because most often we drive to them as a means in which you can reduce your water use. And so, it's working closely with the water resources and policy development to make sure that we understand the metrics they're striving to achieve, whether it's number of designs allocated, number of square feet, removed, how much money, is included in the overall programmatic budget so that we can make sure to reach those goals. So it really is a joint effort. And so by water conservation measures, it would be achieving the goals of the programs. And we're here to support the programs, through our efforts of publicity and messaging. I hope that answers your question, Director Gray.
Yeah. Now, how does the board know that if you come to the board and say, I want to increase to do more messaging, and there are some ideas today, how do you get how would you validate or give us enough information for us to make a decision that you need more money to do certain things based on the information you have? Do you bring that kind of information to the board to tell us that?
Yes, so when we ask for budget for a new program or to support a program, we would spell out what we'd want to do with it in terms of the tactics, whether it's advertisements in local newspapers, whether it's social media advertising, whether it's door hangers. So usually at the programmatic levels, when we bring those ideas and measures into place. In this case, we did, have the funding, included. So in this case, I think we would, that would be part of the discussion and development of this program. How do you measure those results for a campaign like this? I think it would be tracked by media hits, how much coverage you're getting, how many people are sharing on social media, such a campaign like this, how many people are going to the site you set up to interplay. So there's different metrics depending on what your program is. But I think at each program levels, when we come asking for a budget and with the expected results.
Okay, well, this is kind of a general question. I think it's important. Where are your goals in terms of what you hope to accomplish? If it's water efficiency, have you reached 20% of your goals, or 30%, or 50% with your messaging? How do you gauge what you're doing?
From the participation efforts in our programs.
From the participation of folks in the programs, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So you gauge it based on the number of people that will participate in water saving programs, right?
Yes, West Basin's programs.
Okay, so does that mean that based on what you just said, that based on the participation of the people in the program, that has your messaging been successful?
As much as anybody in the state has, I think we still see that the water usage is quite low. It's only, I believe, a couple percent, savings at the moment. So I think it's an industry-wide challenge. I think there's a lot of survey research that comes out of Metropolitan that showcases some of the drought fatigue that people are having, all the different issues of the world that people are facing, and finding, to just a lot of effort. And so I think it's a very interesting time to be a public outreach and information, expert, and there's opportunity here for sure. But getting people to change their behavior and their habits is a big ask. But I think we are seeing gains in participation in our grass replacement rebates, in our programs, and just a general awareness of the issue as related to media coverage, attendance at our lessons, our requests for Speakers Bureau opportunities. So I think we are making some movement in a positive direction.
Yeah, and is that Amy who's talking? Amy, is that you?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And the reason why I'm asking all this is just to kind of, for me to put things in focus, because, I based on what you're saying, it sounds like what you're doing in terms of messaging and whatever it does get out where people are aware of what we do. And so therefore, what we offer to save water. And it seems like what you're saying is that there are a number of people in our community, in our district, that do partake of those programs. So to me, that is what I would, what I'm interested in terms of trying to offer some recommendations or some direction to, the general manager to you through the general manager in terms of, let's try something different, or let's continue with what you're doing. So that's why I'm asking you all of these questions. So thank you. It gives me some idea.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's helpful discussion to have, so I appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you, Director Gray. And I really agree with you, what you brought up, because I don't think this is the information we have in front of us to really make the decision we're trying to potentially make right now. We need to see the metrics. We need to see like how much savings have happened and so on and so forth. Then we could give staff a better idea of where they should now potentially direct resources. But, you know, again, I don't think murals and billboards are probably where that's going to be. But let's move that back to the committee. It is what it is. It didn't happen this month. It'll move along. I do want to, before we move to the next part, Amy, Council Member Valentine, you did raise your hand, and I don't think there's any problem that I acknowledge you in a public meeting. If you would like to say a comment, and you can come up to the mic if you want right there, so we catch it, if that's okay.
I just wanted to recommend that whatever message you have, and I do agree with Director Williams that it needs to be guerrilla messaging. And whatever message you put out, I want to recommend that you partner with the cities to use the city's own advertising media. For example, we have Hawthorne Channel 22. I'm sure we would be very happy to put whatever message you want to put out on our own channels. So I'm sure there are other cities who would feel the same way and use the city's own messaging media to put out the message, whatever message you decide. I think I agree that it should be consistent. I wanted to also suggest door hangers, because in regular campaigning, you know, the door hangers get the message out. People have no choice. They have to look at it when they open their door. It's very effective campaign. A regular campaign, this I think could work as well. Those are my comments.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so I think on that slide, Director.
Great. If you would allow me just another comment.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. And I want to thank Councilwoman Valentine. I just want to make mention, I believe our staff has done, I know, I certainly believe that the door hangers and so forth, I don't know if they partnered with cities, but I did want to acknowledge, I believe that the staff has been conscientious in doing some of those things, but thank you to the Councilwoman. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So I do think on this one, we really need to talk about it again at the committee meeting next month. It is what it is. It got canceled this month. So let's go on to the next slide though, Amy, because I know you've got more here.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, in that, having the direction from this, I'm going to skip the op-ed submissions. They were.
Hold on, let's look at this right quick. This is, because I actually had a question in my stuff for today, because I'm still asking where we're at with this item. So you do have it in here. So opinion submissions.
Yes, so to, you know, leverage a new campaign, although we'll have to rethink this pitch. You know, it's still the same objective, right? Drive awareness of local water use with the call to action to do more. And it's in quotes a little bit more just because it's referencing some market research coming out of Metropolitan about people wanting to do the simple things and not making it this overwhelming ask. You know, and people acknowledging that they can do a little bit more than what they've been doing. I think it showed roughly 50% fell in that category, as opposed to I'm doing everything I can do type of attitude. So, you know, again, taking this gentle approach, right? We know it's an overwhelming ask in light of a lot of, you know, competing worries. So that's the main objective. And the call to action would be obviously to participate in our programs. So we were going to use the public art mural as the timely hook, but we can find a different timely hook. And in general, we were going to target two of our major publication audiences, the Daily Breeze, which covers the majority of the South Bay region for our district, as well as the Los Angeles Sentinel, which also covers our inland communities as well. Specifically not addressed here is the Malibu Topanga area. I think that there is a little bit different messaging involved. And each of these are unique. So it's not to say that subsequent op-eds could not be created, but to start with the broader, the outlets, these two are recommended as an initial start. And then just as a practice, the author being board president representing the opinion of the board as a whole. And so again, this is just trying to use all of our methods available to get out the word in media and newspapers and reporters, and our own, content being submitted is one of those avenues. So it was meant to piggyback on the murals, but we will continue to revise this as well.
Any questions or comments from the board? I'll just go ahead and make a comment because we approved the level 3 a while back, which I believe that's what allowed some of this to happen. If I'm not mistaken, it said we were going to do more outreach, including the op-eds and whatever. And so I don't even remember off the hand, what month did we? That was like.
That was November 2021.
Last year.
It was last year.
Yeah. So I have to be frank with everybody. We are in July. We approved level 3 in November or whatever, December last year, and we're just barely getting around to this. And I know I've been talking about it, even in the midst of hiring a new general manager, I've been talking about it. So I think, quite frankly, this is really, we're behind. That's where we're at, number one. Number two, it doesn't need to be so complicated. I just saw, I think, Aqua or somebody put out an op-ed template that agencies literally could go in and play with if they wanted. I know we can do better than what they're providing, but I'm saying that, we are so behind the 8 ball on the most simplest tasks. So I'm very frustrated. And then last but not least, these publications, I'm sorry, but the Daily Breeze does not hit most of my division. LA Sentinel, that's fine. That's over in Inglewood. What about the beach cities? What about, Palos Verdes, et cetera, et cetera? And I know the Daily Breeze covers some of that, but this doesn't need to be that complicated. So I would say we need to come back to the committee. Let's relook at this and have something concrete from you all this coming month. That's my ask, number one. And number two, I do know we had a conversation about who was going to be the person who gets to have their name on these things. And I can't remember what the consensus of the board was, but basically I think it was either general manager or just board of directors. There was a comprehensive conversation. I don't think we ever said the president.
If I may, just make some corrections here, because just in terms of media practices and best practices, opinion pieces are authored. So it needs a name typically associated with it. So the general manager or the board president. I mean, I suppose we could try to submit it with just an entity of board, but the board president is representative of the board. So that's one of the things. But again, we can try new approaches to typical media.
Let me interrupt for 1 second, and only because of this, out of all respect. Because I was the one that thinks personally that the director who represents an area should be the person who is the one signing the letter. But apparently, if I recall, that was not the consensus, then I think we got pushed back in ways on that. So I backed down. But I don't think I know the board president usually speaks for the board, but most people in different areas don't know who board president is. So I thought we came to some sort of consensus on if it was the general manager or just the board of directors was how we would.
The recollection was it'd be the board of directors.
Right. So, yeah, I think there was talk about this already, and I don't want it to be changed back to something because we went around this already. So I think it was the board of directors was the consensus of how those things would come out from the agency.
Sure.
If we're going to do an op-ed.
That's an atypical approach that we will take.
That's
and
fine.
I'll work with the office of the general manager to make sure all the board is, comfortable with the approach that we take. This is presenting it for discussion. And I agree. I think we've been having conversations about the opinion pieces for a while now. So happy to move this forward, and I'll work with the general manager.
Very good. I'm sorry to be a little bit upset, but I'm just really, really flustered. It's been like 6 months, and I think that's kind of at this point getting unacceptable. Every day in the newspaper, there's articles about the drought. And then to Director Williams' points and others, where's West Basin?
In the packet pages.
I understand. We're in there. And I do see, and this is nice. I mean, a lot of the people that actually picked up our stuff happen to be in Division 4. So I'm not sure where some of the other papers were there in some of these. But anyways, all right, let's.
And also, I just do want to clarify, the Daily Breeze does cover the entirety of, they own and operate the Palos Verdes Peninsula News, as well as some other broad swath of the district. So it's the Malibu Topanga area that's specifically.
In West
as well
Hollywood
as West Hollywood.
and Culver City. So there's a lot of areas that the Daily Breeze for me doesn't cover. So, okay, I don't want to be let's not belabor all this. Let's move on to, you had another slide.
Here,
Proactive,
here.
reactive. Go ahead, Director.
Houston, can I ask a question? Yeah.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, and I kind of caught part of the conversation, but has there been any letter from a director in each division regarding the drought at all? Any communication? An op-ed or a letter or anything?
A letter to the editor and opinion pieces, no.
Nothing has happened since the drought. Since the announcement.
Well,
And so
we've
that's-
pitched stories. In
No,
terms
I
of
meant-
offered,
No, I meant from the directors. That was the question, from the representatives in those districts. That's what I'm asking. So nothing, right? And so is that the thought of we're asking staff to bring us back something regarding that? Was that the direction, Chair Houston?
Yeah, what I'm asking
Hello?
is that on the next PI committee, Director Gray, I'm asking that they should have something on that agenda to talk to us about. Yes.
Okay, yeah. Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, and then, go ahead. Okay, and then Director Alvarez said something.
My recollection from the last time we talked about this, we decided it should be the board of directors, not any individual director, was that there was going to be letters prepared and sent out to the different publications as op-ed pieces for those publications to possibly publish. I don't know if anything ever got sent out. I'm not aware of anything being sent out, but my recollection was that draft letters, send them out. The byline is the board of directors and send them out to the different publications for publications as op-ed pieces. Why that hasn't happened, I don't know, but we've had 6 months to make something like that happen.
I concur. Okay, so let's go ahead to the next slide.
let's go to packet page 150. So this is on the social media front regarding drought. And this is an effort to increase our engagement with our municipalities. We've created a chart of proactive and reactive types of posts categorized by who the announcing agency is. So the state, West Basin, or West Basin cities. And based on some feedback from some of our retailers and PIOs in our purveyor world, having West Basin play a bigger role in identifying, tagging, or mentioning those cities that perhaps also fall under a certain retailer. So for example, when we share something from Cal Water, we're also tagging, the city of Rancho Palos Verdes, city of Rolling Hills, so that we're all in on this conversation together and to drive just our impressions as well as just engagement with our cities as they relate to the retailer and the service providers in those communities. And so we have, a follow list we created that, in this case, it was shown as an example of Facebook. So each post that we do is unique, right? Because everybody has a different handle, perhaps on Facebook versus Instagram. Some cities have, Instagram, but they don't have Twitter. And then their handles may be different. So we've mapped out so that when we have news we can share, we've already got some of this framework in place to be able to, broaden the message and amplify our retailers and cities as well. So that's something that we'll be working to do as this drought continues. And that's already in place. And then moving along.
Director Gray, can you hear us? You're getting a lot
Yes,
of
I'm
feedback.
sorry.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
very
If you
sorry.
maybe can mute.
I'm
Okay,
so
thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. Go ahead, Amy.
Okay, and then changing the subject a little bit here to the 75th anniversary on packet page 152. It's just a snapshot of some of the milestones and a look ahead to future milestones. The main one being this month is an interactive website feature with an enhanced timeline. We've been also sharing our video more. We did a dedicated email, as well as looking for ways to continue to promote the video. We're working on a commemorative booklet or brochure that highlights some public records. We've been working with the county and the state to even recover some records that are not in our storage presently. And so we're hoping that'll be a nice commemorative item. We are also incorporating the ideas into Water Harvest Festival, which will be coming back with, our ideas, that we've agreed upon and some of the creative flyers for review. And then we also just have future plans for additional newsletter opportunities and continued social media. So that is our district anniversary. And then I did want to address on packet page 154, some of our website changes regarding the doing business with West Basin. We were able to create the main tile on the homepage with a block that says doing business with West Basin. We updated our program page that when you click on that block, it drives to an anchored, bidding opportunities. And we've got a button that takes you to the active solicitations in the Marcel e-procurement system, as well as a chart that just has an at-a-glance look at the open solicitations. We're working on the processes to make sure that's updated on the regular as the final step of, any $50,000 or more list of procurements, and looking for ways to expand on open procurements that are visible on that site. And then we're also looking to other implementation phases. So whether that's a desire for additional advertising or events, we can we have a brief framework for discussion in terms of how we advance our procurement opportunities to the community at large. So just wanted to highlight that. And then on packet page 156 is just a look ahead at some things we have on our radar. We've been waiting on some final words in terms of when our grants are going to be dispersed, so that we'll put out press releases to announce monies that we will be receiving for support of our water use efficiency programs. We will be coming to the board probably in the fall or late summer regarding our construction outreach efforts for the PV lateral recycled water pipeline project. We have several events in the works for the fall. Our water harvest obviously is our biggest one, as well as supporting our rain barrel distribution events and making sure we get the word out for that. And in addition, we have several speaking opportunities, which we've created a new agenda item called outreach that will give a more focus on our outreach. A lot of this is focused on communications and media. So I didn't detail that there. And then lastly, we just conclude with some of our social media highlights that starts on packet page.
Before you go, can you go back to that slide real quick on this? So it says an upcoming opportunity. These are press releases, correct? Upcoming opportunities. So it says
one press release. Grant awards would be.
Okay, so I'm sorry. Okay, so that's the press release. The other event. Okay, I got it. And then the speaking opportunities that says see outreach item. So that's somewhere else.
That's the new outreach item. That's 9B.
Later. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, and that, really, and then there's just the highlights from our social media and water bottle filling stations, Director Gray's presence as representative as chairwoman of MET, as well as our own program, Wildwoods Foundation highlights the Del Amo Elementary School, and then Be Water Wise, which is Metropolitan Run, features one of our Hawthorne residents who participated in our Grass Replacement Plus program. And then some of our cities who are highlighting, our programs as well. And then you can see additional snapshots of how we're showcasing some of our retailer content and events. So I won't speak slide to slide, but you can see at a glance there. And that concludes my report. Thank you for your candid feedback, and happy to have some direction on future high agenda items.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Any questions or comments from the directors? Thank you, Amy, for doing that on the fly, especially since we didn't have the committee meeting. I'm going to say, I think, two things. One is, if you haven't seen the video, which I know our staff probably has, but the video, the commemorative video, the 75th anniversary video is excellent. I know I've said it before, so I think it's great you all keep putting it out there slowly over the course of the year. I don't know if Councilmember Valentine's seen that video yet, but it's excellent. 75th anniversary. So thank you to staff. And then again, I think that, I was looking at this media coverage, which is wonderful. We got a lot of coverage, but it was only in certain areas, whatever the reasoning is. But, on the call for 2 days a week and other things that West Basin's done, but it's been mostly yes in Division 4. You know, so that's nice for me, but, you know, I don't know where our other South Bay newspapers are, but hopefully we can try and get them to pay a little more attention to us. So that's just a comment. Okay, so with that, let's go to the next item, and I really want to apologize to board members, but we'll try and keep this moving, but it's important to get this information. So item 9D, boy.
Okay, so our next information item is with our public outreach programs update, and so that'll be presented by Daryl Ramos Young. So Daryl, please. Okay.
Sorry, Daryl's next with the education.
Okay.
It's a little more fun. So I just want to introduce this new item. It's on packet page 200. As you can see, communications can get quite lengthy in discussion. Focus more on the communications platform, the media platform, and we have been seeing a lot more outreach, you know, and we've always been doing great outreach. So I felt as manager, I wanted to have a quarterly update that would focus specifically on our outreach efforts. And so as I put in the memo, I just list out, you know, the types of outreach that we do, whether it's classes, and we list out 3 here, whether it's public tours that we lead, staff leads, usually Daryl on Saturdays, and community tours for groups like Northrop Grumman or community members that want a specialized tour. We are on packet page 201, you can see the Speakers Bureau, which just explains, you know, we provide speakers to the community and help organize speaking events. And in addition, there's several types of outreach events, you know, so community events, so things like Cal State Dominguez Hills, you know, Earth Day event. There's sponsored community events which the board sponsors and approves. And then there's West Basin events, you know, whether that's our festival or a Culver City celebration or a ribbon cutting of a new recycled water connection. So that just gives an overview of what I consider outreach. And in addition, on attachment, it's packet page 205 is the presentation, which is just an attachment that is just, again, meant to be a framework. It's, I think we'll have a more robust presentation as things go by quarterly, you know, as a way to summarize and capture what we've been doing more thoroughly. And so we'll be listing out those same elements. So in this case, because we're just starting it with the new fiscal year, I just want to highlight on packet page 205, you know, we have a Saturday tour coming up on August 20th at 10 a.m. So, you know, that's on our website. If you know, need information or next time you're speaking somewhere, you can let people know. In addition, you know, I mentioned community groups that come to West Basin wanting a tour. So on July 8th, we hosted the Northrop Grumman group. On packet page, sorry, let's see if you're looking at 2 screens. We also, on packet page 206, we also promote water education classes. So recently we had a class, Know Your H2O, July 13th, 6 p.m. We had about 10 people there, very engaged. We had a good dialogue about, you know, what tips were still resonating, where they would like to hear information coming from. In addition, gave them updates on the drought and their water use specific percentages in their area. And then our next one will be in September. In addition, we also hosted last week a West Basin chat. That was specifically for people to get their questions answered by a water use efficiency expert about the RAS rebate or project. So again, having that one-to-one contact with staff. And then finally, you know, we also promote Be Water Wise. So there's a ton of classes that, you know, Metropolitan offers. So we promote that as well. And then I think that about does it. I mean, honestly, there's the Speakers Bureau effort, which I do have more to come, and I'll share that through the Office of the General Manager. But we do have staff Gus Mesa and Director Houston will be at the Beverlywood West HOA to present on drought. On August 12th, Palos Verdes Rotary Club, I'll be presenting to them. And so, of course, you know, directors are welcome. And then there's a few more that are in the works that we'll provide an update on. On packet page 208, again, just this nice snapshot of the event we hosted at Culver City. We got some media coverage, we got some nice social media traction, and it was a wonderful event that celebrated the stormwater capture project in the city. And then on page 209, again, these are the kinds of areas where I categorize here. We have our construction outreach. And so you can see the list of connections and the areas of Torrance and Palos Verdes that we'll be reaching out to with a very strategic plan. So it's not our typical outreach. So we'll be coming back with special updates on that project. And then finally, on page 210, we have been invited and we plan to attend, have staff attend Congresswoman Nanette Diaz-Barragon's annual senior briefing and luncheon. So she will be at the Carson Community Center from 9 to noon, hosting seniors. We will be having staff, have a booth available and information available. And, if anyone would like to participate, that's the information. And we can provide more if needed. So that will be kind of what to look forward to on a weekly basis moving forward. I think it'll be a little bit more thorough in the future. Just wanted to start off the new fiscal year with this new presentation. So thank you.
Questions? Director?
No, thank you. It looks very good. Thank you.
So my only question, Amy, is, so I saw that, I think I saw something in, well, when I first looked at this agenda, so Northrop Grumman did a tour of the plant. Now I'm just curious, how did that come about, or how does that come about? Did the organization reach out to us, or how did this happen? Okay.
Yep. So we have, there's a section on our website, and most people know or they'll email an individual or info@West Basin. But this one came directly from Northrop Grumman to staff requesting a staff type of.
Just out of curiosity, do you all let the director who represents that area know the request came in?
We did in this case, and in addition, as part of this effort to having more presentations, we are working on a interdepartmental a documentation. Actually, Daryl's leading it up. That kind of tracks a little bit better all the different departments that are participating in outreach, because there's just heightened demand. And so I think it's something that will be a good tool that's meant primarily for the administration department's been involved with kind of the framework for water policy and PI to start. So I do believe we typically provide that. This particular one, I don't recall. I'd have to double check.
What's that?
I'm just going to say it should always.
Dr. Alvarez says the answer is no. So here's my thing, and I've said it multiple times, is when an agency organization within a division makes requests, it should be a no-brainer. Staff lets the board member who represents the area know it came in, because what if the director wants to go? What if the director wants to be there?
So
we don't like hearing about it after it happened.
Yeah, that'll be my responsibility to make sure you're duly notified.
Yeah.
Of all of these outreach opportunities.
Correct. I mean, we work so hard to get people to understand this agency and the plant, and a lot of us do invite them at some point, and they might contact director first, and then we hand it to staff. But sometimes, it comes in our channels. But at the end of the day, if an organization reaches out to this agency, the board members should know what's going on, because they may want to participate. Chances are slim they'll be available, but they might. So I think, again, we need to streamline what we're doing right now, and this is one of those times. Okay, so general manager, you can handle that. But, that was requested in the past, and I think that's how it needs to be. So board members need to know what's going on in their division. All right, so I'm done talking about that. Okay, where are we at? What's the next one? Item 9C is in CAT, right? Education programs. Thank you.
Okay, and so on this particular item, let's see, I think we have Janelle as our presenter. I think you said it's going to be Daryl.
Yes.
Okay.
It's implemented right now at the Department of Water Resources Water Education Committee.
Okay.
Until what's up and happening around the state. Thank you, Greg. Good afternoon, directors. It has been an exciting, unpredictable school year. Think back when the school year began, out of the 14 school districts that are located within the West Basin service area, they all were following different COVID safety protocols. They all had different masking requirements. They were different in following LA County Department of Health recommendations, much less there were lots of shortages in turnover of staff, teachers. You had teachers who remained knowing if guests to campus to conduct presentations were going to be permitted. They did not know whether students were going to be allowed to jump on school buses to go to destinations for field trips. So it was a very exciting year, and West Basin was still able to provide some wonderful free water education opportunities to inspire future water stewards of tomorrow. And we know that kids are very impressionable and leaders within their own families to help steer their family members and their friends to conserve water in their own neighborhoods. So I like to provide this really brief overview, yet content rich, so you can better understand the successes of our education programs. If you have specific questions about the schools that are within your director divisions, though that information is provided in depth in all the attachments from B, C, D, and E. But if you do have questions, feel free to ask. Well, why don't we go ahead and jump into packet page 216. We can see the variety of education programs we're still able to conduct during the pandemic year. And I'll provide an overview of the successes of all these different programs. On packet page 217, I just want to mention the highlights from 2 teachers that were recognized this year. One was highlighted in Cal Water's H2O Challenge. To Minnie, she's a 4th, 5th grade combination teacher from Del Amo Elementary School and Director Williams' neighbor and family friend. Outstanding teacher who was recognized for encouraging her students to take a scientific look and inquiry into what was causing the aroma from Dominguez Channel back then. So California Water Service Company went ahead and completed a short little video snippet on her and her students' work. This is a statewide contest. West Basin does not partner with Cal Water for this because it is statewide for their service area, but she is one of the many teachers that really takes advantage of our free water education programs as an agency. Second teacher is Jose Rivas. He is the engineering teacher at Lennox Academy of Math, Science, and Technology. He was recognized by Intuit, a little startup. They were trying to recognize teachers that are doing great work as far as job training services for their high school students. He has been the Solar Cup leader for Lennox Academy for the past 8 years, sponsored by West Basin. So I just want to recognize that these 2 teachers, great videos that are available online, but their success is really supported by our programs that help them succeed with their students in the classroom. So again, the board needs to be recognized for seeing the value of free water education programs for our students and the opportunities to educate them of possible careers that are available in this very special and needed industry. Packet page 218, you can see an overview of all these education programs that we conducted this year. Out of 208 sessions conducted through all these programs, we reached over 7,000 students. Again, pretty outstanding considering we're so many people.
And this is for fiscal year 2021, 22?
Yes.
Yeah, very good.
If we take a look at packet page 220, we can do an overview of the water recycling facility field trips. And this shows the first day of going back to in-person school tours back in March. And you can see that the teacher sent a wonderful thank you note quoting, "Thank you for providing an excellent hands-on learning experiences for our students. They're engaged and excited about learning the process of water recycling and ways they can help make an impact in water conservation." That's what it's all about, helping take care of our water supply and turning off the tap. On packet page 221, this is a breakdown of the number of tours conducted for the schools located in directory divisions. So you can see how that breaks down, and we served over 2,500 students by offering over 100 school tours this year. And again, if you're really interested in the schools within your directory divisions that were served this year, is this attachment B on packet page 241 for your own reference. But in comparison, on packet page 222, you can actually see comparisons of the student number served last year to this school year. And quick summary, we're very fortunate to have an increase in student participation in divisions 1, 2, and 4, slight decrease in divisions 3 and 4. We're talking about 3 less tours in division 3 and 8 less tours in division 4. But we try to serve as many of the teachers who requested it. This year, there are only 5 teachers that were put on the wait list, but those 5 teachers get to be on the priority list for next year. If we go ahead and turn to packet page 224, the art contest, the Waters Life Student Art Contest. Even though we recognize 15 students as winners, our social media posts really reach a lot of people. And over 13,000 unique users actually were touched by your social media posts, and over 2,600 engagements took place, especially during the public voting process. And so that social media is a great way to reach even more people through this program. And of course, value of this social media highlights is that the student artists and their families and friends and the schools themselves, whether it's the principals or the teachers, end up retweeting and reposting. So they keep pushing it forward. As far as the number of participants for the art contest, that's on packet page 225. And you can see that the total number of submissions this year was 850, the largest number of participants we have ever seen ever. The highest number previously was like around 430-ish. That result was most likely because of the high number of free art kits that were distributed this year. Program changed from last year because it was a pandemic and everybody was online. We changed the odd dimensions of the paper to be your standard 8.5 by 11. So any student could participate from home. We decided to keep that this year because we had no idea if the students were going to be in the classroom. So that paper size made it accessible for anybody to participate. Plus, giving the free art kits to the classroom sort of made the teacher feel obligated that they should send in artwork from the whole class. They were getting free pens and colored pencils and paper. So I think that was a great incentive to jack up the number of student entries in the end. Again, as far as the actual schools within your director divisions, that's attached as attachment C on page 248, just for your reference. As far as water industry careers programs go, on packet 7, you can see some of the background photos of our very own engineer, Camille Castillo, serving as a guest panelist. She did that live and also provided a pre-recorded message. And then she partnered up with the senior government affairs representative from WRD. The attendees numbered 137 from 13 schools. If you take a look at packet page 28, this program, although it happens live on one day during the year, the recordings can be accessed throughout the year. And this program continues to standards reach long after that live date because for example, the California Water Environment Association, their magazine is going to be kind of focusing on this program, highlighting the program in their fall issue. And that's a picture of their magazine cover on the right. And then the program recording as well as our employee career spotlight videos are currently posted on our water education webpage. Is going to be featured or has been featured on waterdistrictjobs.com on their homepage since May. So again, our coverage of this program and our videos continues to reach even more people. And then for those teachers or community groups that are requesting career focused tours of our facility. It's on packet page 229. Example of some of those photos of the South Bay Workforce Investment Board's tour. They requested to focus on job opportunities that are available to their young people. And then from the past year, on packet page 230, you can see all the tours from high schools and some middle schools and community groups that had asked for career-focused tours from the past year. We continue to offer those of anybody who requests a tour focused on careers in water. We turn to Solar Cut on packet page 232. The program remained virtual this past year, and West Basin sponsored 2 schools. The first one was Lennox Academy. And you can see the number of awards they actually earned. Out of the 17 schools that actually participated this year, it's wonderful that both of our sponsor schools received some accolades. They were challenged with participating in 6 what they call kit challenges, whether it's making a solar car, a little solar car operate, figuring out how to maneuver through an electronics diagram, how to design a zero emission vehicle in theory. So it was lots of hands-on as well as online applications, such as figuring out how to use Onshape, which is a 3D like CAD software type of program. So these are the accolades that Lennox Academy received. On packet page 233, you can see that Palos Verdes Peninsula High School team also earned some accolades. And out of the 17 schools, they came in at 5th. So we actually have 1 team that placed. So kudos to them. On packet page 234, you can see the number of students that were part of each team. So even though it looks like a small number, it's actually a perfect size because otherwise it's hard to get the teams to be able to work on one project together and submit the final report or their final engineered project. And so these are the students that stuck with the program for four months. It was a reduced type of program since it was online. So they actually, the teams were mobilized in February and then the program actually ended. On packet page 236, just like to provide a high-level summary of the Drop in the Bucket School Assembly. This is a program that we contract out with the Wildwoods Foundation. This is an opportunity to reach more kids on campus. This is a pilot program, so they can serve between 2 to 3 classes at a time. If they spend a whole day there, they can serve up to 6 classes, about 200 students. This photo is a little hard to understand, but one of the activities that they do is they learn about the aqueduct system and how water is transported through the Colorado River Aqueduct and the California Aqueduct. So they're actually given PVC pipes, and they actually have to connect it to a 50-gallon drum of water and figure out how to build a pipeline system or aqueduct to deliver that water to a tree on their campus, and the distance can be up to 100 yards away. So some good problem solving, critical thinking skills with some of this activity. On packet page 237, you can see the breakdown of how many schools or presentations were conducted per division. So out of 17 sessions, over 1,000 students were reached. Hey, how come the Division 1 has 8 presentations? Well, as a pilot program, this was officially designed to be conducted in person. So we actually allocated 1 in-person classroom assembly per division. And because the online version is much less expensive, we still offer the opportunity to any teacher that would like to. It just happened that Stephen White Middle School in Carson, the teachers banded together and they raved about the program online. And so all the 6th grade students got this presentation online. but all the divisions actually had one school have it conducted in person. And it was so successful, we're looking forward to carrying on that and continuing that program for next year and be able to provide the in-person as well as online version available to any school that would like to within our given allotment of about 24 in-person sites. And I think we'll wrap it up with the teaching test program, packet page 239. See the kids. We're happy, the high school students are happy to participate in this voluntary water quality monitoring program. Their lab was assembled outside again. Remember last year, because of the pandemic, the program was canceled. So this year they really focused on getting the program up and operating again with staff turnover and trying to come up with a safe COVID safe protocol for the students to actually collect water samples and then work together safely in the lab. And one way they did that was making the lab outside. On packet page 240, you can see the schools which some of the students hail from. And it was nice to see that a nonprofit, the National Charity League, had a good number of mothers and daughters participate, about 25 of them who helped out throughout the year. These student participants, they come and go as their time allows because the program takes place voluntarily every other Sunday. So the coordinators for the Surf Router Foundation are the ones who really try to mobilize the kids and get some consistent participation throughout the year. And it's their lab technician who works with the students to give them the exposure to actually how do you prepare water quality samples, how do you get the actual measurements. And it's those measurements that are put on their Water Task Force webpage and helps contribute to the report card for all our South Bay beaches. So it's really nice that the students are actually contributing real scientific data. They are serving as a community science to help monitor water quality along the South Bay. So with that, that concludes my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Great. Thank you, Daryl, very much. Any questions or comments?
Very good.
Director Gray, any questions? I just want to say thank you.
No,
as
thank
well,
you.
Daryl.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Gray. And a lot of data in here too for us to peruse, so we appreciate that. All right, very good. Thank you. Let's get to our last report, item 9D, as in dog conservation programs update.
Yes, and that'll bring us to our water resources analyst, Gus Meza. And we don't have Jennifer with us. She's online. Oh, she's here virtually. Okay. So Gus, please take her away.
Great, thank you, Greg, and good afternoon, Board Chair Houston and directors. I have a few updates on our water efficiency programs, but I'll try to be brief. I know we're going kind of long here. The first program is our Change and Save program, and you can find that back at page 260. This program has concluded on June 30th. It's a grant-funded program, and so staff is working on submitting the final reports and invoices to DWR. And in the packet there, page 260, you can see some of the water saving metrics that we provided. 231 washer rebates, 1,500 conservation kits, and you can see the annual water savings and the lifetime savings of the devices there. Very good program. We provided a lot of rebates to our residents, $500 rebates for the high efficiency clothes washers to 231 residents, totaling over $115,000 of grant funding and funding for Metropolitan Water District. So our residents really benefited from this program. And even though, although this program has ended, we're developing a new program, as you know. Last month, the board here approved a partnership with Southern California Edison. And so we're partnering with them on a water energy program. They're going to be providing installation of not only energy devices that they're currently installing through their program, but they're going to be adding water efficiency devices. As you remember from the last month, we showed some of the devices the shower heads and the outdoor sprinkler timers. So Southern California Gas Company is going to be installing those devices on our behalf through that program. So we're really excited about that. And I'm working closely with Amy and her team to develop, to work with SoCal Gas on the marketing. They currently have marketing flyers that we're going to be adding our name to. And they have a lot of things in place already through their energy program. They've been doing these programs for many years. Many of you have probably heard about the Southern California gas programs, the Edison programs and gas programs, but this is a partnership with the gas company, but they've been doing this for a long time, providing programs to communities. So they have a lot of marketing in place that we'll be able to take advantage of. So they'll be doing that on our behalf. So it's going to be a really great program. I'm very excited about it, looking forward to it. There'll also be a press release announcing this partnership with SoCal Gas, and it will provide you more information as we move forward here. My next before I move on, I wanted to see if there are any questions. Okay. My next program is the Malibu Smart into Vegas Smart program. You can find that on packet page 261. This program, as you also know, this grant is coming to an end as well. And we provided 160 of the Rachio sprinkler timers that we installed through this program. And so partnering with the city of Malibu and the water retailer in Malibu, Topanga, LA County Waterworks District 29, we're going to be providing a free training to those residents that receive those Rachio sprinkler timers. So Rachio is going to be showing them how to program them. As everyone here probably knows, certain cities and retailers have restrictions in place where you can only irrigate 2 times a week. So they're going to be showing them how to adjust those controllers to irrigate 2 times per week as well. And that training is coming up on August 10th at noon. So we're looking forward to providing that training with our partners, the city of Malibu and LA County Waterworks. That is my update on that program. So moving on to the Rain Barrel program on packet page 262. We issued the information for quotes, and this next month, staff will be bringing back to the Public Information and Education Committee a recommendation. Right now, we're going through those bids, and we'll be providing the pricing for the rain barrels. This is a preparation for our rain barrel distribution events this fall. And we're also currently working with our board services and our general manager to work with you on the different events that we're holding in the different divisions, and the different locations, dates, and also to select the community groups that will be assisting us with the event. So we'll continue working with each of our directors on these upcoming rain barrel events for the fall. Hopefully we get some rain to fill up those rain barrels. Yes. So that is my update. And I'll go ahead and turn this over to Jennifer Vasquez, unless there's any questions.
Question. I've been asked recently concerning the toilet giveaway. You know, that was, I think, back in 2013 or something like that. Somewhere back there, just before I came on board. As a matter of fact, I got a good plumber out of that program.
That's great.
Because you guys always also provided the plumber to install those toilets back then. But anyway, some folks have been asking, when is that coming back? I said, what will it take to get that back? Could you find out more, please?
I can provide you a little information right now.
Okay.
As you know, the industry did a lot of work. We here at West Basin, we provide over 40,000 toilets going back to 1995 when we were holding the events. And then 10, 15 years later, the industry kind of moved to the outdoors. They saw that there's a lot of potential outdoors to save water, grass replacement, these smart timers. So the industry really shifted to go after the outdoor water savings. But there is a program that we have, this new program with the gas company for our priority areas that we'll be able to install free toilets through that program. That's one of the items that's on that list for our new SoCal Gas Partnership Program that'll be launching next month. So if they're in our priority areas, let me know, have them call me, contact me, and we'll see what we can do with that program. Yes, sir, Alvarez.
If there is such a program, do you qualify a petition?
Based on the web for do you qualify?
Siri spoke up there. Do you qualify a petitioner who's asking for a replacement toilet to make sure that their toilet isn't already a low flush toilet?
Yes. Gas partnership with the gas company. The gas company's third-party vendor will be out there doing a pre-inspection to see what they have already and make sure they have an older toilet before they install high efficiency toilet. Yes. Great. Thank you. Okay.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, yes.
Thank you. Yes, it's regarding the grass replacement program. Southern California Water Coalition had a panel and Director Houston did a great job moderating it. And part of the discussion was that, I don't remember which agency or whatever, but they said they have vendors or companies that actually come out to the homeowner's house and actually tell them how to replace their lawn rather than the homeowner trying to figure it out. Is that part of our program here?
I can definitely
Director
speak to
Gray.
that.
Oh, I was gonna hand this over to you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jennifer. Thank you. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Thank you. Good afternoon, directors. Yeah, that's essentially what the Grass Replacement Plus program aims to do in this pilot phase that we did the first year, provide design assistance. I think I was also at that lunch, and a lot of what was talked about was, getting over the hurdle of the design aspect and really talking to residents and helping them through the design stage, because that's really what will ultimately get them to go through with the application process. And so we have that with the Grass Replacement Plus program. It does now, at this point, target only the DAC census tracts, as we've talked about. However, it is essentially providing that design assistance to help residents through the process, not only receive a design, but also once they have a design in hand, apply for the rebate application, and so helping them through that as well.
Okay, Jennifer, you mentioned that only who qualifies for it and what tract?
Yes, the disadvantaged communities census tract, as defined by the CalEnviro screen. Essentially, this looks at socioeconomic factors, pollution factors to determine those communities most affected. And so it targets approximately half of our service area. And so those census tracts are the ones that we're going after with this Grass Replacement Plus program. However, I will mention that we are seeing just in general how much design assistance is really needed in getting residents through this process. So part of my update was mentioning our very successful Metropolitan Water District design workshop that we had on June 30th. And we saw great attendance. I guess just kind of going into my update in a way, we saw a lot of registration for that class. And I think for that same reason, that it takes a lot of effort for people to begin to plan out what they would like to see in their landscape design. And so at that particular class, we saw, over 100 registrations and 98 actual attendees on the day of that class, which essentially took residents through the design portions of their landscape and what to consider, really what to think about when they're including not only their stormwater capture element, but also taking advantage of what plants to really put in place.
Okay, my last question is, how do folks know that they qualify for the design portion? I mean, what advertisement is out there to tell folks? Because a lot of folks may shy away from it because they may come to a class, but and they may get discouraged because they may feel it's so much, but how do people know that this program is available, that part of it is available to them?
Yeah, so currently the first pilot stage that opened up 20 packages of design assistance available, we did close out that program, but we essentially promoted it when it first was made available, and really pointing them to generating their address and sharing it through a very innovative GIS map where essentially they would type in their address, and if they were within the eligible areas, they were then invited to submit their application. And so when we first released the initial 20 packages for Grass Replacement Plus, that proved really successful in getting those residents that were eligible within those census tracts through the program. And we'll continue to do that once we have the next round of these packages available. As of now, Tree People is finalizing those first design packages for residents. And so they are really at the stage where they'll begin to actually apply for the rebate application. But that same practice of promoting through the GIS map, I think moving forward is the best way really to get someone, like you're saying, that might be interested in the program. They don't really know if they qualify. They go on, make it very simple and personal to them to actually visit the website to check if they are eligible and then have them invite to the actual application. That worked really well because people kind of pre-selected themselves to type in their address and then continue to the actual application form, which I think is great to have just in general for any of our programs moving forward, and making it very clear for residents, who qualifies before we even engage them to move on to the application.
But Jennifer, I would just ask you very simply, just if I heard that West Basin had some water efficiency programs, and so and grass replacement was one, how would I know that there's a design portion of it? How would I know that? Are you telling me I have to go on the website and it tells me that even before I start looking through to see whether or not I qualify for it? I guess what I'm trying to say, how do people know that that part is available to folks? That's the question before they even get to whatever GIS mapping you said. How do they know about that? Or do you guys talk about that?
Definitely.
Or
So
is it on the website? Go on.
Yeah, definitely. When the packages were made available for design assistance, the main thing that we did was through social media and our website. And even as we speak about the program for grass replacement, we make sure to have residents visit our website because that really offers them a variety of resources, whether they qualify for the design assistance or not. Really having them engage with us also through the West Basin chat, which is one of the portions that I wanted to update on. Having that direct contact with us, myself as a staff member, to really speak to and answer some of those questions ahead of time before they decide to move forward, whether it's with design assistance or directly to the rebate application. That really is the way that we're promoting it, in various ways, but primarily through speaking on it with the West Basin chat and pointing them to the resources that are available on our website.
So it is on our website is what you're saying, right?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Jennifer.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Why don't you go ahead and move into your presentation real quick, please?
Right, yeah, definitely. And some of it I did cover kind of as I answered the questions essentially, but the main thing that I really wanted to speak to today was grass replacement and just the general activity that we ended with for the fiscal year. As you may have heard with Metropolitan in general, they are experiencing a high amount of rebate applications that began really in May, but really carried through with June and even now in July. And so very similarly, West Basin has benefited from the additional promotion that's out there really for grass replacement. In the month of June, we ended with a total of 39 applications just for that month, which is something that we have not seen in the past. We were typically tracking closer to 10, 12 applications per month. And really what Metropolitan is putting out there, along with
those sponsored classes that I mentioned with the Metropolitan Design Assistants that West Basin benefits from and really co-sponsors, we're seeing the activity that drives to the rebate applications. And so within the packet, which I think the information primarily that I'm referencing is on page 263, we did see the fiscal year really end with the 38 or 39 applications in June, but really closing out with 256 plus square feet, 1,000 square feet of grass for the full fiscal year, which is something that's tremendous as far as how many applications we received just in total for the fiscal year, but now have residents that are basically working through their projects. Now, I do hear, of course, that many of them are taking advantage of this summertime to plan, which is why we co-sponsored that design workshop class in June 30th, so that the design aspect is really being taken care of now. So once the fall comes around, they are able to plant these new gardens within their area. And then I did speak about the sponsored class, so I won't go too much into detail there, but as I mentioned, we did have 98 participants in the class. They received over 65 questions just in that class, which is an hour and a half of a landscape designer going through the process of design and what to consider. And so many questions regarding what type of plants, where can we contact landscape designers, all of those were the kind of questions that we received in that hour and a half. The benefit of it is that it was the landscape designer teaching this class, so they had plenty of information to provide to point the residents in the right direction as they're finding their ideas for their garden. And so that does cover grass replacement. I'll move really quickly into Cash for Kitchens, which is one of those programs that we did wrap up for the fiscal year, very similar to Change and Save, which Gus talked about earlier. This is a was a grant funded program, and essentially did wrap up. We did reach 234 water efficiency surveys for restaurants and commercial kitchens during that time, and issued ice machine rebates primarily, as those were the rebates that really were quite popular with commercial kitchens as far as water efficiency, and changing those over to the air-cooled ice machine versions as opposed to the water-cooled ice machines that are typically used or can still be found at many restaurants, although most of them are shifting over to air-cooled ice machines. And so this rebate kind of pushed those last commercial kitchens and restaurants over to make that change. And again, it provided over 276 flow restrictors and also pre-rinse spray valves, which is something very typical of commercial kitchens, and just helping them achieve those quicker water savings and almost immediate water savings as soon as they install these devices. So those were just some of the highlights of what was achieved with that program. And then moving down to public agency design assistance, again, the big word that we heard during that lunch last Friday was design assistance. And part of the benefit that we have now is also for our public agencies. So all of the cities and also park areas and even school districts have taken advantage of our program that we have available for design assistance. And so really, at this point, we have 10 different agencies that have reached out to us. I don't know if this is a little bit more in the June timeframe, so it's not as updated with some of the newest agencies that have joined us to take advantage of design. But there is a list on page 266 that includes, Alondra Park, City of Gardena, Bodger Park, and then we have some interested sites that are getting there as far as speaking to and preparing to participate, for example, Redondo Beach, which we've talked to, in Culver City High School as well. And we did get 3 additional sites added just in July. So we're working with those to begin addressing design for their sites. And so that wraps up my update. We also have the look ahead calendar, which at this point, it's well into July, but we always have, as mentioned, the classes available on our website so that residents are able to take advantage of those metropolitan sponsored classes that we have and are always talked about during our chat because many residents use our chat really as a starting point and then go on to participate in the other resources, like I said earlier. So that's the last of my update, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer, very much. Any questions? Okay. I will, Director Gray, are you there? Any other questions?
No questions. Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Really fast, Jennifer. I think 2 or 3 things. One is I know that those numbers hopefully will be ramping up on the grass rebate applications, because I did hear in the last week or 2 from some other agencies that they're just, people are coming out of the woodwork, obviously, very interested in that program. So I look forward to that. I know this list you have here on the public agency side talks about the design assistance, but there's the ones that there is no design assistance. They're just interested in taking advantage of the program, right? That's a piece of it too. Isn't that correct?
Are referencing the public agency design assistance?
Yeah, but they
so-
don't have to take advantage of that, right? They can just qualify for grants,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, they do not have to take advantage of this program. This is essentially for some of those cities that are considering it. Really what the challenge that I'm finding with cities, just so you know, a lot of them would like to engage this conversation further with their council, with city managers. And so they're reaching out to us to really engage and creating something that can be presented so that then this moves forward to show what the rebate amount is. It's really starting from very similar to how a resident, the same things that I speak to with residents as far as, okay, how large is your landscape? And some of them really benefit from our landscape design assistance because Swayzer Landscapes actually goes out to measure the space. They generate a design for this space, and then that can be then presented in various formats depending on how the city functions, or if it's a school district, or if it's any other site to then move this forward. And so they don't have to take advantage of this, but it is something that we have found very successful, especially with some cities that need that idea or at least that engagement to then pass on to the other city, to their city manager or council members. So it's always something that we mention in case they do need it. And for the most part, we have seen success with some of our cities in the service area.
Okay, very good. But I see that the contract ends on September 30th, so that
Yes.
service is going to go away.
We actually are hoping to continue that service. So because of just the great success and the engagement that we're receiving from cities. So in the new fiscal year, we have planned for this to continue. Shortly, we will be going back out to bid to identify additional landscape designers for this program to continue in the format that it's functioning, because we are seeing that it creates a great opportunity for some cities, as mentioned.
All right, well, just from my perspective, I think you all continue to reach out to the cities as you have been, regardless of that program, just so they know. Because I see this one really lists the ones that look at that particular program, but can you just keep us updated on if there are other cities that at least engage? They probably are going through maybe their own channels, their public works department or whomever, but that they know that the funding is there.
Great, most
Right.
definitely, yes.
Yeah.
And one of the updates, for example, is Manhattan Beach. That's one of them that will be added in the next PI committee that has recently engaged with us. We're still finding out what sites they're considering. But again, it moves these projects forward, I think, because otherwise they first would have to go out to bid through an RFP process for landscape design. Many of these cities don't have the landscape designer. They do have staff that can actually build a garden down the line once it's approved and has been presented. But yeah, I definitely will keep an eye out on any additional rebate applications that come in that may perhaps don't take advantage of our design assistance and just move forward with the rebate. And we're always trying to engage those cities to know at least that there's a higher incentive for public agencies in case they want to not go through our channels, but participate for the rebate.
Perfect. Thank you, Jennifer. Okay, any other questions? That's it. Okay. All right, let's move on. Thank you. Item 10 is our receive and file.
Okay, and before we just complete our item 9 is if there's a motion to receive and file all of those items.
So motion, is there a second? Okay, we have a second to receive and file. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and take a vote.
Okay, Director Alvarez. Director Houston,
Yes.
Director Williams,
Yes.
Director Gray.
Yes.
All right, unanimous.
Great. Now we'll go to item 10, which is receiving file, right? Is that where we're at next, Greg?
That's correct.
So I believe we could go ahead and entertain a motion unless anybody wants to poll.
So moved.
Is there a second? I'll second. Any discussion or polls to this? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and call for the vote.
Okay, Director Alvarez, Director Houston,
Yes.
Director Williams,
Yes.
Director Gray.
Yes.
All right, motion carries.
Now, General Manager's Activities Report.
Okay, thank you, Vice President Houston. I just want to start by thanking both staff and the directors who have expressed sympathies with me in the celebration of life for my grandmother, Bessie Lee Scott Walker, who passed away on July 4th, and with whom's services, life was celebrated in the services last Thursday. It was a really wonderful celebration with my, extended family, many who came from out of town. My grandmother has roots in Texas, and so many of the family members who came to Los Angeles to celebrate with the family. And I thank staff and the directors for sharing those thoughts and sympathies with me. So with that, going right into my activities for the month, we held what I thought was a very successful special board workshop on July 9th. And thank you to our special guest, Craig Cadwallader, who also expressed very kind remarks about that. And we talked about a couple of very important items on our agenda: the relocation of our headquarters building and various considerations to help the board shape the scope of the direction of that. And receive clear direction from the board to validate the square footage necessary for staff relocation and to validate the estimated cost related to that. And so we are working towards that end at this moment with the goal of coming back to the board within a 2-month period with the answers to those questions. And that will allow us to continue with the discussion and shaping the scope of that relocation study and the services related towards that. The other important topic that we covered in that special board meeting was the future direction of our water recycling program. And I really appreciate the board's engaged discussions on all the elements of our program, which focused on the importance of reliability regionally, in addition to continuing to be a leader, not only in water recycling, but in a multi-integrated resource portfolio, which includes imported water, which includes conservation, which includes our water recycling as well, in addition to groundwater management and groundwater and storage. And so that combined portfolio really will introduce regional reliability in partnership with both the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, as well as the City of Los Angeles, LA Sanitation, and Department of Water and Power. And so the feedback that was received in terms of what success may look like in that area was very important and insightful, and all of the discussion on the related component items for that program. The other topic that we covered in that workshop was regarding district communications, and I appreciate the board's kindness in hearing that particular item and the thoughts that I shared with the board on that. And of course, we also had a closed session with no reportable actions coming out of that. I also had the pleasure of accompanying our directors, Houston and Gray, in the celebration event for the Culver City Stormwater Infiltration Street Median Project, which was discussed with Amy Roach's presentation. And I thought it was a really great celebration of a multi-benefit project that included traffic safety, water quality as it relates to stormwater into the Bayona Creek, water conservation as they implemented California-friendly landscaping and harnessing the dry weather runoff that enters into the storm drains for irrigation, as well as the public benefits that the beautiful space that they created provides. But our role in participating in that celebration was because of our facilitating the access to Metropolitan's new and innovative grant funding program, which, along with others who contributed, such as the City of Beverly Hills, Santa Monica Bay Restoration, made that project possible. And so we were joined by city mayor, council members, staff, City of Beverly Hills, Metropolitan Water District, South Bay Restoration, Bionic Creek Renaissance, and what was really a well-attended and noteworthy event. We also engaged our neighbors to the Etsy Little facility, specifically our El Segundo Mayor, Drew Boyle, City Manager Daryl George, and Public Works Director Elias Sassoon, with Director Houston and our operations engineer Susanna Lee, and myself, as we were discussing concerns of the odors that are impacting operations of our new neighbor, Topgolf. And so looking at how we may identify alternatives to mitigate the source of the odor, to continue with discussions that will be inclusive of Topgolf on how we can work together to mitigate that. So we're looking towards mid-August to reconvene with additional information and analysis. I also had the great pleasure and opportunity to attend Aqua DC. Staff, admin manager Julie Fraser Matthews, and staff from Water Policy and Legislation, Matt Vey, as well as Director Houston. We were all in attendance, and it was really great to hear the keynote presentations, highlighting from the federal perspective, stresses on our water supply, impacts to water quality, certain important aspects of the water energy nexus as it relates to the Colorado River supply and the challenges of continuing to produce hydroelectric clean energy, as well as some of the relevance towards watershed management and the forestry, the potential for wildfires and mitigating that. So very significant and poignant considerations that just highlight some of the importance of preserving our water resources for these multiple integrated resources. Also had the first opportunity to meet with our federal lobbyists, Van Skoyak and Associates, and having a chance to sit down with them and talk about some facets of our board workshop and the future direction of our water recycling program, and specifically some ideas in terms of funding opportunities to help promote the elements of that program. I also, in the spirit of our future direction of the water recycling, I had a meeting today with Metropolitan Water District Assistant General Manager and the Chief Engineer, as well as Water Replenishment District's General Manager and Assistant General Manager, joined by my strategic advisor to further discuss the quick win objectives that we're looking for on the regional program and how we might achieve them, and then defining what might be the anchor customer demands that we can include within their. And so also looking at how we can define a phased implementation that could be integrated into the Pure Water SoCal and into the Hyperion 2035 programs. With that said, just in terms of my own personal activity, I just also want to just remind everyone that I will be out of the office starting tomorrow, and I'll be out for vacation, returning on Wednesday, August 3rd. And so during my absence, I want to thank our Executive Manager of Finance, Margaret Moja, for continuing to act on my behalf as acting General Manager for that period. Moving right into our engineering area, we are happy to report that the decommissioning activities for the Brewer desalter have started in earnest. Site demolition activities are underway and are ahead of schedule. Field work started July 11th and is scheduled to be completed within 20 working days by August 5th. That sounds fantastic. Operations wise, on July 12th, there was a water recycling leak in the distribution system within the city of Inglewood. It was a minor leak, and the amount leaked was determined to be unreportable. City of El Segundo was notified that 5 parks would be temporarily out of service during the period while the main is being repaired. The repairs were completed as scheduled and service was returned to the parks on Friday, July 15th. Beginning Thursday, July 21st, staff ramped up water recycling operations to the West Coast barrier. So now we're flowing up to 6 MGD, million gallons per day, which is the amount requested by LA County. And that's fantastic as well, as we certainly want to minimize the use of imported supply to the barrier. And I'm sure there's much more headroom to go in that regards, but it's a great start. And just as an anecdote, I understand from talking with my operations team that the quality of water that we are receiving from the Hyperion treatment plant has significantly improved as of, I believe, June timeframe, following certain upgrades and implementations
1 month now.
that happened at Hyperion. So I think this is a good sign, hopefully, for more improvements to come. Within our finance area, we have the proud achievement of being recognized. We were awarded the Achievement Excellence in Procurement on July 21st. So this Achievement of Excellence in Procurement is designed to recognize organizational excellence. This prestigious award is earned by those organizations that demonstrate excellence by obtaining a high score based on criteria that measures innovation, professionalism, productivity, e-procurement, and leadership attributes of the procurement organization. In addition, it recognizes innovative programs and solutions that exemplify outstanding achievements. The award not only focuses on practical documented work, but also recognizes leadership and contributions that further advance the public procurement profession. This is the 5th consecutive award for the contracts team, which includes our very own Yvonne Lucas and Joanna Garcia Singleton. And so I could say confidently, I stand with our executive manager of finance, Margaret Mosia, in expressing pride for this accomplishment. In our HR area, I think I've already mentioned the upcoming potential mask mandate that if the county enacts that, we certainly will follow suit and reinstitute the mask mandate for the district for that period. Going into our ad hoc committees, our Brewer DeSalter ad hoc committee convened, and we continue to monitor the status of the demolition project. And we have also discussed the removal of the water well pump that we seek to repair to ensure that it works properly for Water Replenishment District, who is purchasing the well from us. And we've also talked about amending our purchase and sale agreement to reflect the updated payment terms and conditions. And we continue to work with Cal Water on formalizing our termination of the property lease and the O&M services. So our goal is to bring forward the amended agreements for both of those to E&O committee on Friday and ultimately to the board by the end of August. With that said, we are planning to meet as an ad hoc. This next meeting is going to be on Friday, August 5th. Then we have our Los Angeles ad hoc committee. We also met on July 8th and just talked about the status of the work that we're doing with our water recycling program, debriefing from the meetings that we have been having with the various stakeholder organizations, and then also discussing the membrane bioreactor pilot agreement that has been proposed by the city of Los Angeles. Our next LA ad hoc meeting is scheduled also for Friday, August 5th. So that brings me to the end of my report. The only last thing I'll just share is that I am planning to hold the first general manager project review meeting on August 5th at 2 p.m. And so I will be sending an email out to the board of directors to invite up to 2 members to sit in and ask questions about the projects that I will be reviewing with staff. So please be on the lookout for that email. And the first two board members who respond will be welcome to sit in. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you for that thorough report, Greg. Any questions from the board members?
Yeah, very good. Nice report.
Thank you.
Very thorough.
Director Gray, any questions? Okay. I have no questions either.
No questions.
Next.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Director Gray. Next is item 12, our general counsel's report.
Thank you.
Here's Steve. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Director Houston. Just a quick report. The updated legal matters list is in your inboxes as of yesterday. And just to expand a little bit on some of the things Greg said, a lot of our time in the past month has been spent on the water recycling program and the various contracts and issues that surround that those programs. And also just to follow up on the case that we've been tracking, San Diego versus Metropolitan. You'll see in the attorney's report that trial did conclude. It went a little longer than anticipated. It concluded on July 1. In speaking with Metropolitan General Counsel, she feels the trial went as well as she could have hoped. She thought the trial team did a good job presenting evidence. They got generally favorable rulings from the court on evidentiary issues, and that there is a good record if this matter goes to the Court of Appeal. As we reported previously, this case will wrap up next month with final argument in late August, and I think we should expect a ruling maybe September, maybe October, sometime around then. Also, we'll note that there is a closed session tonight on two items that are on the agenda. And that concludes my attorney's report.
Great. Thank you, Steve. Any questions for Steve at this moment? Okay. Let's see real quick here. AB 1234 reporting compliance. Does any director want to report verbally? Or do you
No, thank you.
And Director Gray, I think you usually submit yours electronically, I believe. I'll real quick read mine off. AB 1234, since our last board meeting on June 28th, at a conference call with the general manager. On July 5th, at a meeting with the general manager. And then on the 8th of July, the Southern California Water Coalition, the executive committee meeting took place, which I'm a member of that. And then on July 11th to 13, Aqua DC, I attended Aqua DC. I'm not going to go into really much detail at all here. I'll just say it was excellent. And thank you to those of our staff who were there. But the only, I guess, one highlight I'll mention was our keynote speaker, which was really wonderful. They were able to secure him that morning, Wednesday morning it was Senator Alex Padilla, who made an appearance and spoke to the group, which of course, California Water is a very bipartisan group, but to have our newly appointed senator, who's up for his own reelection right now, come in and talk to the water folks from California was excellent. And he gave a nice quick overview of what's going on and his perspective. And, I think everybody there was very pleased to see him and hear from him personally, let alone the fact that they know he's gone to bat for funding across the state for the water community. So I think that this is the beginning of a good relationship, I hope, with Senator Villa. So anyway, otherwise, there's a lot of other excellent speakers. It was a much more broad and diverse set of topics, including wildfires, which was great, and wildfire crisis strategy. So anyway, I can talk about it offline, but it was a really good conference and had good attendance by those who could fly out to DC. Okay. With that, we will move into our closed session. So go ahead and do that. And Director Gray, if you're on, you'll need to come off of this meeting and I think call into that separate meeting.
Okay,
During
I
closed
will.
session.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Let's get the brain there. Yeah, I noticed this morning in my office,
Hey, Julie, this is Stephen O'Neill. I just wanted to confirm you can hear me.
Steve?
Oh, yeah. Hi, Julie.
Hi, I can hear you. Did you need me for something?
Okay, I'm just gonna close my mic. No, no, I just
thank
have to
you.
wait till they come out.
Hey, Steve.
Oh, is that Greg?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is great.
Okay, so yeah, just, I'll just, I guess when they take their seats, I'll turn on my mic.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Okay.
Thank you.
We are live. We are back.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting back to order. We're in open session. And is our legal counsel on here?
Yes, I am, Jeff Houston.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. Steve, if you'd like to report out from closed session, please.
Sure. As to the first item, as to the LA Waterkeeper case, the board met pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9 to discuss one item of pending litigation, LA Waterkeeper versus West Basin. On the second matter.
Wait, he
Hold
cut
on.
out.
Yeah, you cut in and out, Steve. Very end.
I'll try one more time.
Just the last, yeah, your portion.
They met pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9 to discuss existing litigation, LA Waterkeeper versus West Basin. No formal action was taken in that matter. The board also met pursuant to Section 54957 to discuss performance evaluation, general counsel.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Steve. We caught your section. Now I'm going to give the floor to Director Alvarez.
With regards to Government Code Section 54957, Performance Review, General Counsel, the board did discuss it. And the board's decision is to direct the general manager to initiate a request for proposal for general counsel service.
Go ahead.
That's correct. So, Steve, that concludes our closed session, I believe.
That would. Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, very good. We're almost done here. So it looks like item 15 is the last portion, director's comments or future agenda items. Are there any final comments from our board members?
All right.
No, thank you.
Nothing from Director Williams. Okay, go ahead, Director
I'll
Alvarez.
be real quick. I think we heard from several people today about the July 9th board workshop. I thought of all of the workshops that I've attended for both this board and other public elected bodies, that was one of the better workshops. It was small, it was focused. There was a very good, honest discussion amongst the board members. They felt very comfortable speaking. There was agreement and disagreement, as one would hope that would occur when you're trying to look at issues that are critical and need discussion and some consensus. I think that the biggest achievement of that was really looking at the future of not only West Basin, but Southern California and just in general, California and the water situation. And that we made a commitment to develop advanced treated reclaimed water on a regional basis, and whether it be in partnership or in leadership, as a basis to reduce the need for imported water in Southern California to the maximum extent practical, and do it in a sustainable basis. And I think that discussion was the predominant discussion of the day. I think our general manager did a great job of teeing it up, and it went very well. And after much discussion, we did reach consensus on that, and I think provided direction. And I'm very proud of our actions that day in really moving forward to look at developing a sustainable water supply that's not reliant on imported water sources for this region in California in general. And that's it. We've had a very long meeting for a day that I thought would be a short meeting, so I will have no additional comments.
Okay, thank you, Director Alvarez. I will go ahead and conclude with just a couple of things really fast myself. So number one, I concur with what Director Alvarez said about the July 9th meeting. It was excellent. board had a really good discussion, and I would agree with what he said, as well as general manager performance at that meeting. I think all 5 directors were very grateful. So I just know that that's how I certainly feel. Okay. Number 2, I wanted to say really quick, I had some suggestions from a resident in El Segundo that if staff could look at this regarding, we all know about the rain barrels, but if we think about other ways for home water storage, obviously cisterns, I believe there is some sort of rebate program or something for cisterns, but I think we need to try and find a better way to let people know about that, what it is and how they can get a cistern or whatever on their property. Home water storage, however you want to look at that. And then the one other suggestion brought to me was gray water, of course. But more importantly, it wasn't, hey, West Basin, we should go out and do the workshops and things we used to do in the past that were not really very fruitful, but rather just have the resources and information available to our residents on gray water. So this was brought to my attention in the last week, and I think that's a really good concept. So if you all could have our staff look at that and see how they can make sure that people, if it's easy to find on the website and easy to hear about when we make our presentations, the public, that would be really good. And then my last thing I just want to say was, last Friday was that luncheon, the Southern California Water Coalition. And I'm just going to mention the people. It was on a panel, and I got to moderate the panel, but it was Michael Diamond, who is with Scott's Miracle Grow. He was the Government Affairs Relations, state manager, government relations. Jim Holas, who is Director of Architecture for Rancho Mission Viejo. Mia Lair, who is with an organization called Studio MLA and did the landscape and design for the SoFi Stadium. So what she talked about was all about SoFi Stadium and making that come together. And then Dean Wang, who's the Water Resources Director at Long Beach Water. And the reason I just mentioned this was it was a really interesting, robust conversation on Friday in Long Beach with, a good packed crowd. But the fact that we were talking about, it was all about kind of the outdoor space. It was about, a big developer, for example, down in what is that, South Orange County, looking at how they're dealing with, a planned community and growth, and then even now, of course, doing open space and wildfires, et cetera. And of course, right here in our urban area, the SoFi Stadium property as they develop that. So I just wanted to share because we don't ever get to really talk about what transpired, but it was really good. So, my colleagues just could know that the Southern California Water Coalition, I think they put together a really great panel. And one last thing, you guys know, 2 things, sorry. There was a group there that presented to us that's looking at doing a similar type of coalition up in the San Joaquin Valley. It's going to be, it's called the Water Blueprint for the San Joaquin Valley. So basically, they're taking the model of the Southern California Water Coalition and putting this broad group together up in the San Joaquin Valley. So they were there to tell us about it, and that just sounded very good and fruitful and phenomenal for that part of our state. And then lastly, so you guys know, since I'm the appointed rep, we appointed 2 new board members to our board at the Southern California Water Coalition on Friday, and one of those is Jeff Montejano, who's from the Building Industry Association, and John Swatowski, who's from Rebuild SoCal Partnership. So those 2 gentlemen will be joining the Southern California Water Coalition board, which is a pretty big board. But anyway, I think that Southern California Water Coalition is really firing on all cylinders right now and is real geared up. And like I say, that was our second in-person meeting in the last 6 months, and well attended, good topic. And so hopefully, as we keep moving forward, and we all get a chance to be there, you guys can do it. But it's a good group right now. Okay. So with that, it's been a very long meeting, I know. I would like, if it's okay, to adjourn this meeting in memory of our general manager's grandmother who passed away. I don't find that there's any objection with that. So if that could be noted, Julie. Our next scheduled meeting is to be held on August 22nd, 2022. And We also wish all of our colleagues who are not here at this moment good health and Godspeed. And with that, we are adjourned.
Thank you.